Down YouTube, Danny Golding TV. The 49ers, for the third straight year, are going to the NFC Championship game. And for the first time since the 2019-20 season, they will host the NFC Championship game against the Detroit Lions. The Lions have had a hell of a year, a hell of a Cinderella story for the Lions. They won their first division title in 30 years. They won their first playoff game in 32 years, and now they've won 2 playoff games, so they've won they've won 3 playoff games since the 1991 season, and they've had a hell of a story this year. Dan Campbell is a hell of a coach, very unique coach, very rah-rah kind of head coach, a lot like the former 49ers head coach Jim Harbaugh that just got hired a couple days ago by the I almost said San Diego Chargers. So of course, we're gonna touch on that as well. My guest, Sean, 49er, formerly 49er Wildcat, calls himself Bandwagoner 2011. He's gonna come on and join me here in a little bit. But it's time. Man, it is time. And it's been a long time since the 49ers last won a Super Bowl championship. Since the 94-95 season, about 2 years before I was born. And I think this is the year that they can finally do it. But the Lions are not going to be an easy opponent. I think the Niners will get the win, but it's not going to be easy. And they got to play a better game than they did against the Packers last week. You can blame it on the rain. Brock Purdy probably did not have his best game, but he still led the team from behind to a victory. And of course, he's having more critics because that Ravens game on Christmas was perfect for all the Purdy doubters. And when he has kind of a bad playoff performance, even though he didn't throw any picks and still got the win, it's perfect for all the critics. Let me look up this. Who was it on? Ryan Clark. Let me look up this. What Ryan Clark said exactly, so I can get it accurate here. Hold on a second. By the way, before I've done these streams on both YouTube and Twitch. This time I decided to do it on YouTube and Twitter, which is now known as X. So if anyone would like to watch on my Twitter at Danny Golden, you can as well. Hold on a second. Let me get this. I quote right because I completely fucked up when I tried to say what Amy Trask's quote was last week. Okay, hold on. All right, what Ryan Clark. What Ryan Clark said was the single hardest thing I had to do this year was act like Brock Purdy deserved to be in the conversation with Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and Josh Allen because he was playing extremely well and operating in that offense and distributing the ball to George Kittle and Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk. We had to include him in conversations with Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. Those things are not alike. Brock Purdy is a fine player. Brock Purdy can operate in Kyle Shanahan's offense at an extremely efficient level. Brock Purdy doesn't raise the level of play of anyone around him. And so when you talk about Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, the people around them benefit from having those sorts of players at the quarterback position. Brock Purdy benefits from having the sort of players he has at the skill positions around him. And so when we look at that game against the Green Bay Packers, even with Jordan Love throwing an implicable interception to end the game, I was sitting there thinking that the NFL would be excited that Jordan Love doesn't play for the 49ers. Okay, and I'm not going to read the whole entire quote, but you get the gist of it. Now, the thing that doesn't really make sense about that is no 49er fan was comparing him to Patrick Mahomes or even Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson because they're all just different quarterbacks. Especially all of those quarterbacks are extremely mobile quarterbacks. Now, a lot like Jimmy G, Brock Purdy can be a mobile quarterback when he wants to, but that's just not the kind of quarterback that he is. Obviously, no one compared him to Patrick Mahomes. That'd just be nuts. So I'm waiting for my co-host, 40. I'm just gonna call him 49er Wildcat to join me as well. Sorry about that. Trying to see the status on that. Hold on. Already has had MVP caliber MVP caliber number this season. If it wasn't for that Ravens game where he played horrible and threw the interceptions, then he would still be in the MVP conversation. I always thought that if you're going to give it to a quarterback, you should give it to Lamar Jackson. But I personally thought Christian McCaffrey was deserving of that award. But it is more of a quarterback award. But no MVP award matters. What matters is hoisting that Lombardi Trophy in Vegas. Something the 49ers have not been able to do for 29 years. That's all that matters. And Brock Purdy, Kyle Shanahan don't give a shit who gets the MVP. They care about winning that Lombardi Trophy. I'm gonna post the link in the YouTube chat as well if anyone else would like to join. Let me just do that real quickly. All right. So some news that broke a few hours ago is that Deebo Samuel is going to play. He was doubtful before. He was listed as questionable, but now he's not even on the injury report at all. He is a full go, as we would like to welcome Chris Barnhart, my good friend Chris Barnhart, into the chat. Welcome. Chris Barnhart actually going to hang out in Vegas for the week of the Super Bowl. We're not going to, well, he'll be there for the actual Super Bowl itself, but I'm not going to be there for the Super Bowl itself, but I will be there Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday for that Super Bowl week, and that's going to be fucking epic. Now, it would absolutely suck if somehow we did lose this game to the Detroit Lions, because it would suck to go to Vegas and not have my team be there during Super Bowl week when my team was this close to winning it. But I do not expect that to happen. Now, of course, you've probably seen all the, or I don't know, what would you call it, polls or whatever, where it shows the map of the United States and shows each state it shows each state what every team is going for in each state. And obviously, California is the only state that's rooting for the Niners. All the other states are rooting for the Detroit Lions. If the Lions are playing any other team besides the Niners, I'd be rooting for them too. So I don't know if there were people sending me that trying to act like that was a big surprise. Like, no, that's not surprising at all. Chris Barnhart says, I say 49ers Chiefs Super Bowl. That's what I'd say too. And it's actually, here's another funny thing. By the way, welcome to Rockin' New Era 84. Thank you for joining. Talked to him earlier in the KMBR chat during Tom Tolbert and Adam Copeland's show a little bit ago. Absolutely. Tell the guys that I'm on. Yes. Get the whole Damon Bruce Plus squad in here. By the way, the mic's sounding good. The mic has not had any issues so far. So really happy about that. But yeah, as I was saying though, so both of these two teams that the Niners could potentially play in the Super Bowl are the two teams that I've seen the Niners play in the Super Bowl in my lifetime, and the two teams that I've seen the Niners lose to in the Super Bowl in my lifetime. But we got to get past the Lions first. Got to get past that. And now you might see in the thumbnail of the video, of course, I also showed Jim Harbaugh because he just got hired by the Los Angeles. I keep almost fucking saying San Diego Chargers. Don't get me started on that. It's a joke that the Chargers are LA has two teams. And they had to steal a team from San Diego. Don't even get me started on that. But but Jim Harbaugh was hired by the Chargers. Hopefully that'll actually give them some more fans, I guess, or it'll have their fans come out of the woodworks. You might think the Rams have no fans at SoFi. I'll tell you what, compared to the Chargers, they at least have some. Because I went to that NFC Championship game a couple years ago, and when you watch a Niners-Rams game on TV, it looks like it is. It's dominant. It's completely dominated by red, dominated by the Niners. It's definitely worse whenever the Chargers are playing it. So, or I don't even know if I would say it's worse, but I would guess that it would be worse at least. But when I was at that NFC Championship game, I was in a standing room only section. My friend and I were at the standing room only. That seemed like that was the one part of the stadium that was dominated by Rams fans. That's the one part of the stadium where whenever you hear the Who's House, you would actually hear a decent Rams chant. But in honor of Jim Harbaugh being hired by the Chargers the same week leading up to this Niners-Lions NFC Championship matchup, I'm going to take you guys back to a classic moment between Jim Harbaugh and the Niners and the Lions from 2011.
To do that. 6 weeks of the season, I would not have believed it. So a credit to Jim Harbaugh and his entire staff of what they've been able to accomplish this season.
He looks like he's been through the ringer. Looks like he played the game today. You saw him say no penalties. They've committed 15. Stafford throws, complete to Calvin Johnson. Stanford man nowhere in sight. And the San Francisco 49ers are 5-1 for the first time since 1998. Game 2, America's Game of the Week, coming up after these messages.
You saw the exuberance as Jim Harbaugh and the Niners were running off the field. Watch what happens next. There's a quick handshake between Harbaugh and Jim Schwartz. Schwartz says something to him briefly, and then this ensues.
6 catches today, 102 yards.
Jim Schwartz, you can see in the white top and the gray pants there, yelling and screaming back at Harbaugh's direction. Harbaugh's in the middle of that somewhere. The Lions and Niners then go toe-to-toe. You're going to see some people putting their helmets back on their heads as if a fight is going to break out. Some people trying to get in there and break it up. Both teams are going into the tunnel where the Lions' home locker room is there. So, Jim Harbaugh, Pete Carroll, they had that issue when they were head coaches in the Pac-10 in college at the handshake at the end of a game. Jim Schwartz apparently not happy with the boyish exuberance displayed by Jim Harbaugh, and I think we have guys now cooled off to the point where the Lions will go into their locker room first. The Niners, celebrating their victory, will go in after them.
So there you have it. That was from the 2011 season. Would like to welcome some people into the chat. I want to welcome AJ Cruz. AJ Cruz actually called into the Tobert and Cope show earlier. That got me fired up. Shout out to Keeping the Faith, aka JD. Says Shanny is greater than Harbaugh. I would agree with that. Otis Bird III, known in the Damon Blues chat as the Admiral, the fearless chat leader. Shout out to Otis. Shout out to Ernie Chavez, 95.7 The Game Morning Roast Doobie Award winner. Good evening to all you guys. Thank you for joining. Appreciate it. sorry, just reading that chat a little bit. Yeah, Chris Barnett says that he remembers that as well. Yeah, that's probably the most memorable handshake in NFL history, I would assume, where anything happened. And you heard in the broadcast, whoever was commentating actually mentioned that Jim Harbaugh and Pete Carroll had a similar handshake or similar thing happen after a Stanford USC game, which I had forgotten about. I actually, when I was looked up to download the video, I actually saw that. Chris Barnett says, "Where is Sleeta?" Sleeta is a Falcons video maker on here for years. For those of you that don't know, it would be funny to get him on. He's a Kyle Shanahan hater, so him being a Falcons fan, and a lot of people have, even though Kyle Shanahan was only the offensive coordinator of the Falcons and he wasn't the head coach, he was calling the offensive plays. So he blames the 28-3 blowing that lead. He blames that on Kyle Shanahan, even though you were facing Tom Brady. So he roots for sports failure for Kyle Shanahan. So he'll never root for the Niners to win a Super Bowl if they have Kyle Shanahan. And he's going to be very, very disappointed this February, because this is the year where I truly, truly believe it's going to happen. But the Niners have to get past the Lions first. A lot of people were criticizing Purdy for how he played last week against the Packers. He definitely did not play his best game, but he led them from behind. No one's really talking about this. He led the Niners back from behind. People were saying that he can't come back from behind. He hasn't had to before because they haven't been behind. He sure as fuck did that last week, though. I haven't really heard many people talking about that. I thought Kyle Shanahan was a little bit too conservative with his play calling. Mainly just the fact that Purdy looked out of rhythm and he kept calling passing plays, which is the opposite of how you would call plays when Jimmy was a quarterback. Because 4 years ago in the NFC Championship game against the Packers, the last championship game that was hosted at Levi's Stadium, Jimmy only threw the ball 8 times because, I wouldn't say it's only because he didn't trust Jimmy. Maybe if he trusted him more, he would have at least had him throw the ball like 12 to 15 times. But you had Raheem Mostert, who was fucking incredible. He had the game of his life. Absolutely just ran all over the Packers defense. So why would you even have to call any passing plays in that case? So it was kind of a mixture of both, but still, Shanahan, I should have had more runs to Christian McCaffrey. But forget even that. Obviously you got to feed the ball to McCaffrey, but what about Elijah Mitchell? And don't even get me started on Jordan Mason. But Elijah Mitchell, I want to see at least some running plays from Elijah Mitchell. Hey, it'd be cool to get Kyle Juszczyk involved even too. Shanahan should use that genius. So those genius trick plays he used to call back in 2019. It'd be cool to see that. as well. Hold on, let me look at the chat a little bit. That's what I get into. What JD said about okay, yeah. He says I need Sunday to hurry up. Can't wait to get to Levi's. Yes. Now the Niners are undefeated in the postseason at Levi's Stadium. That's an omen that I think that's going to continue for a while because yes, I predict us to win this game. And if the Los Angeles Niners have that number 1 seed next year too, and I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but they just have the playoff luck at Levi's. Now, the last 3 NFC Championship games that they lost, of course, a couple of years ago, I was at the game in LA. A lot of things, if they would have just gone their way, if Jaworski Tart would have caught that interception, if Jimmy G didn't throw that pick at the end, then they would have been in the Super Bowl and they would have been their 3rd Super Bowl appearance against the Cincinnati Bengals. So that would have been a hell of a story. We all know what happened last season. As soon as Purdy got injured, as soon as Purdy's arm as soon as all that shit happened and he went out, I didn't completely lose my faith in us winning that game, but I thought that it was going to be very hard to win a game in Philly, especially how well the Eagles played at home last season with Josh Johnson at quarterback. But it sucked that Josh Johnson just looked so bad, though. He just looked, or the fact that not even that he looked bad, but just the fact that he looked scared, and that truly sucked. And the fact that they ran out of quarterbacks and Purdy had to come back in the game when he couldn't throw more than 5 yards was, in fact, I believe a new rule was established since then that there has to be an emergency quarterback. See, Chris Barnhart asked if I have been to Levi's. Yes, I have. I actually went to the first ever playoff game at Levi's, 2019 season, January of 2020, the game against the Minnesota Vikings. And while I bring up that game, actually, that's a game where Jimmy threw a touchdown pass to Kendrick Bourne, and then he threw, I think he only threw one interception. I don't remember if he threw 1 or 2 interceptions, but he threw an interception later on, and then that's kind of where Kyle started to started to just call nothing but running plays. And they had Mostert, of course. They had Tevin Coleman. Actually, Tevin Coleman scored I got a video of Tevin Coleman scoring a touchdown in that game. But that's kind of where it looked like Kyle Shanahan was showing everyone that he just was not trusting Jimmy as quarterback. He was just not. He was predicting he would throw a lot of interceptions or throw a lot of bad passes, was what they would call them, Jimmy no throws. Because of course the next week after the Packers game, he only threw the ball 8 times, but you don't need to because he had Mostert doing his thing. Now another thing though for this Lions game is the Lions are ranked number 16th in pass defense. So I've heard a lot of people say that the Niners probably will throw a lot of passing plays because of how bad the Lions are with their pass defense. But you got to feed the ball to CMC, and I'm predicting that CMC will be the first player to score a touchdown in this game. But it was epic that the first scoring play was the Packers went up 3-0 first. But I love seeing Purdy to George Kittle, the Iowa State connection. That's epic. When Sean, aka Wildcat, aka Bandwagger 2011, who was supposed to join me, when last week he made the point that the best thing that happened to George Kittle was the fact that Jimmy's no longer his quarterback. Now in 2019, Jimmy and Kittle seemed like they did have a good connection, and heck, even in 2017 and before 2018, before Jimmy got injured, it looked like they had some stuff going. I remember there was a Garoppolo Kittle 2020 shirts, political shirts that people had, and then before Jimmy got injured last year, especially in that Mexico City game against the Cardinals, you were kind of seeing it again. But with Purdy at quarterback, Kittle has just looked epic, especially lately. AJ Cruz says he was a part of the flag crew for that playoff game. Oh, okay. That's awesome. Hell yeah. It's epic. Yeah, this game on Sunday, I'm actually going to watch with my good friend who I went to high school with, who's a lifelong Lions fan. And when we were juniors in high school, they actually did make the playoffs with Matthew Stafford. That was the year where they lost to the Cowboys. And Matthew Stafford had a hell of a run in Detroit, even though he didn't have any playoff wins. He led them to a couple playoff appearances, and he was their best franchise quarterback in years before that. And you guys will probably remember at the beginning of the 2021 offseason, a lot of people thought that the Niners were going to go after Matthew Stafford. And JD, who's in the chat right now, I remember you had a live stream where you had some people on, and you were predicting it was almost a done deal. The Niners were going to trade for Matthew Stafford. And I remember, of course, everyone was getting all excited. And then the next days, the Rams make that trade, and everyone's just pissed off because it's looking like the Niners have the worst quarterback in the NFC West already. But so, yeah, Matthew Stafford, the Rams and Lions make the trade, involves draft picks and Matthew Stafford and Jared Goff. And Jared Goff goes to Detroit. He doesn't have a good year that first year, but in the 2022 season, the Lions, I believe they went 9-8, and they came close to making the playoffs. And then this year, they just had an epic year. But Dan Campbell was also named their head coach back in 2021 during the offseason, about a month before they made that trade. And his nickname is Dan Gamble. The reason why is because he's a extremely aggressive head coach. He'll go for it on fourth down a lot of times. Everyone points to that Cowboys game recently, just last month. When the Lions were down by a touchdown, they just had to, I guess they would have been, down by 7, and then they would have just had to kick the extra point to tie it, but they decide to go for 2. And of course, one of the Lions linemen who reported as eligible, or at least he tried to report as eligible, but one of the other Lions linemen had reported eligible earlier, and the ref got confused, and because the other lineman signaled to him, and he took that since he reported as eligible earlier, that he was the one calling it, that made to the ref side, the Lions lineman that actually caught the pass on the 2-point conversion ineligible, and ended up being called back. Now, I personally thought he should just kick point the first time. Most people seem to agree with his first decision to go for the 2-point conversion, but once it was called back and they got brought back 5 yards, that they should have just kicked it then. I personally think he should have kicked it both times. Chris Barnett says we got robbed of Jerry Jones crying in the press box. Yeah. That would have been epic. I mean, come on, Jerry Jones losing in the playoffs itself is pretty epic. But so with Dan Campbell, actually, I wanted to play a couple things. So his introductory press conference Wanted you guys to hear that real quickly.
I wanted this job bad because I felt like I knew this community. I played here. All right. Here's what I know. Just as an overall philosophy, you're going to say, well, what's this team going to be? What's it not going to be? Here's what I know. All right. I know that Detroit's made up of great people, some really good people. All right. This community is strong. This place has been kicked, it's been battered, it's been bruised, and I can sit up here and give you coach speak all day long. I can give you, hey, we're going to win this many games. I can't. None of that matters, and you guys don't want to hear it anyway. You've had enough of that shit. So excuse my language. All right. Here's what I do know is that this team is going to take on the identity of this city. All right. And this city's been down, and it found a way to get up. All right. It's found a way to overcome adversity. All right. And so this team's going to be built on, we're going to kick you in the teeth. All right. And when you punch us back, we're going to smile at you. And when you knock us down, we're going to get up. And on the way up, we're going to bite a kneecap off. All right. And we're going to stand up. And then it's going to take 2 more shots to knock us down. All right. And on the way up, we're going to take your other kneecap and we're going to get up. And then it's going to take 3 shots to get us down. And when we do, we're going to take another hunk out of you. Before long, we're going to be the last one standing.
And here is another one.
And a little sharper. Like, to me, it means we'll play anywhere. We'll play on grass. We'll play on turf. We'll go to landfill. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if you have 1 ass cheek and 3 toes. I will beat your ass.
He seemed like a Mike Singletary 2.0 at that point in time. Yeah, but their styles are a little bit different. Because Singletary, because I don't know if Dan Campbell will be the type to actually get on a player live in a press conference as Singletary did with Vernon Davis. And Mike Singletary single-handedly, and this isn't just me having this opinion because a lot of people think, oh, like, come on, it's not like one coach can completely change a player's career, especially a head coach that wasn't that successful and ended up getting fired after a couple of years after that. Can't change a player's career. But Vernon Davis himself literally said that was a turning point in his career because he didn't complain about Singletary calling him out in the press conference. He wasn't a little bitch. He didn't complain about it. He was a man about it. And he took the words to heart, and he completely changed as a player. And then a few years later, he was one of the best tight ends in the whole league. And if it wasn't for George Kittle, he would be the best 85 on the best Niners tight end that wore 85. Hey, Slita, welcome. Sports Live in the ATL. Thank you for watching. He says, obviously, I'm going for the Lions because of Kyle Shanahan choker. Yeah, I was talking about earlier. I was telling everyone earlier about how you can never root for Kyle Shanahan because of the 28-3 situation in the Super Bowl. And hey, let me just say, though, before I read the rest of your comment, let me just say that, one, Shanahan was an offensive coordinator. Yes, he could have called some better plays, but he wasn't the head coach. Dan Quinn was still your head coach. He could have overran all those plays. And you were facing fucking Tom Brady, okay? So you cannot blame that completely on Shanahan. But he says, but good luck, Danny. Your team is legit. Thanks for supporting me all these years. Of course, Lita. Give him a subscribe if you haven't. Sports Live in the ATL. He makes good content. He's a Atlanta sports fan. I was really happy for him when the Braves won their first World Series a couple of years ago. Or actually, I don't know if it was their first World Series, but a couple of years ago when the Braves won the World Series, I was incredibly happy for good old Slita. Rocket New Area 4 says you really turned that culture around. And Otis agrees that he changed Vernon Davis's career. Yeah, this game on Sunday. The Niners are favored in it, and they are the number 1 seed. Oh, by the way, also hi to SG Sports Talk channel. Appreciate you watching as well. But the Lions are no pushover. And Jared Goff, this is also his homecoming. He's going back to the Bay Area. He's from Marin County. He grew up a Niner fan. He actually wears the number 16 because of Joe Montana. And there was actually a time when he threw the first pitch at a Dodgers game, but refused to wear a Dodgers jersey because he's a SF Giants fan. And that's just, I love that. Like that's awesome. And Jared Goff, when he was a Rams quarterback, even though he did make him the Super Bowl, I mean, I made a lot of hate week videos against the Rams that I would talk shit about. I would say, oh, he sucks and all that. But he did take him to a Super Bowl, but then they only scored 3 points in the Super Bowl. But Sean McVay was down on Jared Goff, and that's part of the reason why he got traded to the Lions. But since coming to Detroit, he has turned his career around, and he's played really well, of course. And him and Dan Campbell, along with Sam Laporta, Amon St. Brown, Aiden Hutchinson, but especially Jared Goff, because just like the Niners with Purdy, you can't be a Super Bowl caliber team without a franchise quarterback like that. Sorry, just reading the chat a little bit. Now, last week, the Lions, when they played the Buccaneers, it kind of was a shootout, and I'll give the Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers credit, even though I talk a lot of shit. I think that Baker Mayfield is the worst quarterback that made the playoffs this year, because Amy Trask last week said, oh, we have 7 terrific quarterbacks and Brock Purdy. Like, how could you say that when Baker Mayfield has not been a terrific quarterback for years? But he's a decent quarterback. He actually took him. So I was even saying how it would make sense if you said, oh, there's 7 terrific quarterbacks, and then you have Baker Mayfield. But Baker Mayfield and the Bucs stayed in the game for the most part. The Buccaneers won by a couple touchdowns, or excuse me, the Lions won by a couple touchdowns, but the Bucs were able to stay in the game. So I will give them credit. But that game was an epic shootout. And I expect this game to be a shootout as well. It's not going to rain. It's going to be a 70 and clear at Levi's on Sunday. So I think we could look at like this isn't my ultimate score prediction, because I'm leaning more to like a 31-24 49ers victory, but this game could end up being like a 42-30-34 49ers victory. And I'm not going to completely say it couldn't go the other way too. It could, but I truly believe that the Kyle Shanahan, who's been to 3 straight NFC Championship games, has been to the playoffs for 4 times in 5 years, and has been to a Super Bowl already. It's a more experienced head coach on the more experienced team, because most of this team has been to the NFC Championship game for 2 years in a row, and a lot of this team is left over from the 2019 season that went to the Super Bowl as well. The more experienced team is going to prevail and get this win on Sunday. AJ Cruz says Trask's take was lazy. Heat and insert national media non-story based on draft positions. Yeah, that's what the main bias is with Purdy, is because he was the last overall draft pick, Mr. Irrelevant, and all that. If he had been not even a first round draft pick, but a second or third round draft pick, and he was playing this well, I don't think he would be disrespected this much. Now, when Purdy first started balling out, when Jimmy got injured, a lot of people expected that they were just gonna that Purdy was kind of gonna be a fluke, and so it seemed like he had more respect from the national media then. But when he started continued to ball out and actually led the Niners to the NFC Championship game, just continuing from where Jimmy left off. He started to get disrespected, I think. Now, he gets called a game manager a lot. And by the way, my co-host that was going to join me is about to join me in a little bit. He says he's just eating. He's about to join me. When they say he's a game manager, they're not wrong, because it shouldn't be necessarily a diss to say that someone's a game manager, because they are managing the game still. But there's different kinds of game managers. Like Jimmy G, he was a game manager. The 2019, come playoff time during the January of 2020, that's when you could see he was only a game manager. But I remember there was a Cardinal fan named Cattle Dog who I met in person before, who was when he was making his 49ers hate video, he was just trashing on Jimmy, saying, "Oh, he's not a decent quarterback, or he's not a franchise quarterback. He's nothing but a game manager." And at that time, I would have disagreed, but he ended up being right. Yes, he was only a game manager around that time. Now, after the Niners made the trade for him with the Patriots in the 2017 season, he looked like he was their potential franchise quarterback. So obviously, I didn't want to go subscribe to that take at all, that he's nothing but a game manager. But looking back, yes, he kind of was just a game manager, not looking good with the Raiders at all. But on the other hand, his pockets and how he's able to handle being pressured and knowing when to throw the ball away, when to take the sack if he has to. The fact that he's barely thrown any interceptions shows that he's more than a game manager, and shows that he can be the 49ers quarterback for the next decade. Now, that being said, when he throws interceptions and starts to look bad, they've actually lost. All the games where the 49ers have lost have been games where Purdy has thrown an interception. Now, that's not saying that if he throws, like, let's say Niners are up 7-3 in the first quarter and Purdy just throws an interception. That does not mean they're going to lose the game. But that is an interesting stat, that in this season, because last season he actually threw a pick in the last game of the regular season against the Raiders, and the Niners still did win the game. But this year, when Purdy's thrown an interception, that's when the Niners have lost games. And now the Browns game was a bad weather game, and Purdy kind of looked rusty a little bit and looked like he was overrun by the rain. But he did lead them to the potential game-winning drive, but then Jake Moody missed that field goal. And that was just an odd stress where they lost those 3 games in a row. The Vikings game, he did not look good in that game. He threw some picks, and they lost on Monday night. And that's where the panic button started to get pushed. And then it gets revealed in the week before the Bengals game that he actually had a concussion. And he was concussed. And I personally wanted Sam Darnold to start that Bengals game just for precaution. But after the Bengals game, and he looked horrible, of course, in that Bengals game, and they lost, and they ended up losing 3 in a row going into the bye week. All the talk was, "Oh, that was a fluke. He's looking like Jimmy now." But then, of course, after the bye week, starting in that Jaguars game, he just continued to where he left off, back on that 5-game winning streak, and did not look back from there. I'm gonna read this chat a little bit. And actually, I want to get into a little bit about talk about Bosa and if he's for. Let's see. Okay, yeah. Earlier, Rocky Newer 84 asked, "Will Nick Bosa get a sack?" And I don't know if he will, but man, if he did, how loud would Levi's get if Nick Bosa did have a sack? That would just be epic. It doesn't matter if he actually gets it, as long as he brings the pressure, and as long as the defensive line just pressures Jared Goff and all that. Nick Bosa doesn't necessarily have to get a sack, but that would just be epic, and I hope he does. And I think that this could be the game where he gets his sack, because he's only had about half a sack this year, is it? Or he's only had 1 or 2 sacks this year. But we got one person watching on X, aka Twitter. Shout out to whoever that is. Got 5 people watching YouTube. And my co-host is about to join me as well. Yeah, AJ, I do agree with that. And Larry Krueger actually made a good point that Amy Trask is a respected and former NFL executive. May have been even people are saying that she may have had a part in the Raiders drafting Jamarcus Russell all those years ago. It's odd for a smart woman that knows her football as a former NFL executive to talk down on a young quarterback like that that's had a hell of a last couple years. A hell of a year in his first, an MVP caliber quarterback in his first full season as a starter. All just because of the draft position and because of the fact that the Niners being such a hot button topic, and the whole Purdy thing being a hot button topic as it was already, that she was going to get a lot of clicks for that. So Amy Trask was kind of looking for clicks. It's just funny how she's like, he's good, but he's not in the same category as these other quarterbacks. Well, okay, Amy Trask, no one's saying he's in the same category as Patrick Mahomes, because are you kidding? Patrick Mahomes is back in the entire fucking league. No one's saying he's even in the same category as Josh Allen, although I think that he is. I think that as of this point, I would still take Josh Allen as a quarterback over Brock Purdy. But 5 years from now, people are going to say that they'd rather have Brock Purdy as their quarterback than Josh Allen. But and even Jordan Love, Jordan Love wasn't terrible in the game last week. Heck, he played pretty well, but he did throw a couple picks, including the game losing for him, the game winning pick to Dre Greenlaw. Purdy could have actually thrown 2 picks in that game. The one that was bounced off Savage's hand, that could have been a pick 6. So you could say that luck prevented that from happening. But like I said, Purdy is capable of throwing a pick and the Niners still winning the game. Says, I think Bosa has to have, for nothing other than that, get Goff on his rhythm. Or get Goff off his rhythm. Plus, he's making other dude better. Yeah, that is true. When Nick Bosa held out like he did, and to then just not have a down year is a little bit disappointing. But Bosa did deserve the bag, and a lot of people were saying that the Bosa family in general has been known for that, because Joey Bosa has done that before too. So I don't know. I'm not that mad about it, but the fact that he held out for training camp and all that, and then had a down year, kind of sucks. But I'm gonna see if my co-host, and if he's still eating, he'll come on when he's ready. But Sean, are you there?
Yes, I am here.
Welcome.
First of all, what can I say? Here we go again. Another NFC Championship game. What a surprise. You know, at this point, it doesn't really seem to surprise me anymore. Because it almost seems like I always expect them to get this far in the playoffs, like every year now, because I'm just so used to it. This is like the third straight year where
It is straight NFC Championship game. The fourth NFC Championship in 5 years, and the third year in a row that they made it. Because there's only one down year where they didn't make it. The 2020-21 COVID.
Oh, that COVID.
Year,
that doesn't really. No, listen.
Yeah, that doesn't count.
I
like,
honestly
we'll just erase that from the book. If you take away that year, he's basically made it to the NFC Championship game for the last 5 years.
But let me just first of all say that throughout my lifetime, the Niners have made the championship game 7 times, and this includes. Wait a minute, you're born in '97, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that means they made it in your lifetime 8, because if you count that 49ers Packers game between Yun and Favre, that makes it 8, because the game actually happened in January '98. But yeah, I want to
the one with the Terrell Owens catch was actually January of '99, I believe. Was that
No, that was a wild card game. That was
right. I know that was a wild card game, but it didn't. Yeah. Okay. I thought maybe that was the divisional. Okay, I thought maybe they made it to the NFC Championship game that year.
Well, if you know the history,
I got
you know the history from 1995 to 1998, they always had to go up against the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, I did see that because I was looking at all the Niners Packers playoff all time.
And it's kind of funny. Did you talk about it at the beginning of the stream? Because it's kind of funny now because 49er fans up until like 2012, for instance, we're so used to the Green Bay Packers just kicking their ass in the playoffs all the time. But now, flash forward to like 2024, that's not really the case anymore. The rivalry has now completely shifted in favor of the 49ers. Before the Harbaugh era begun in 2011, the 49ers were, I think, 1-4 against the Green Bay Packers in the playoffs, with that one victory with Terrell Owens making the catch 2. But then since Harbaugh showed up, in addition with also Kyle Shanahan doing his own thing, the Niners have now gone 5-0 against the Green Bay Packers in the playoffs. And, of all the playoff games, because I sort of want to talk a bit about the rivalry and just explaining how it kind of turned around for the Niners, because everybody was just so used to Green Bay killing us all the time. But the way I see it, the rivalry began to really shift in the Niners' favor when Favre retired. I mean, this is a no-shit answer. Once he left, once he was gone, I felt like it was sort of like what we're already seeing happening with Seattle. Everybody used to see the Seattle Seahawks as our biggest rival in the NFC West. But now, ever since Russell Wilson left, because you could make the argument that he was sort of like our generation's kryptonite / Brett Favre. And now that Russ is gone, the same thing is already happening, where the team that used to kick our ass is now suddenly getting their ass kicked by us. And but yeah, since Favre was gone, 49ers just have been, I mean, it took some time to go into effect, because in 2009 and 2010, we lost to Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, but that was only because there were really either some mediocre or shitty teams back then under Mike Singletary. But then once Harbaugh showed up, the whole thing just fell apart for Green Bay.
Yeah, we've lost to Aaron Rodgers a few times in the regular season, but in the games where it mattered, in the playoff games, we got it done.
It's not like
choked it all. Well, I mean, he didn't necessarily choke it all.
It's not like here's the thing. The biggest difference between, I want to say this to you, and I want to say this to the viewers as well. The biggest difference between Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers are really the teams around him. Okay. Personally, for me, I felt like Brett Favre had more complete teams than Aaron Rodgers had. More complete teams. And the only time that I would say Rodgers looked like he had a complete team at all was really that 2021 team that went 13-4, as you know by now, lost to the 49ers in that I mean, here's the thing. I remember that game well years ago. It was at Lambeau Field. It was at nighttime, at least over there in Wisconsin. I did not personally expect us to win that game. I thought the season was over there, but I was like, you know what? If we lose to Green Bay, so be it. We at least went 10 and we beat Dallas and we made it to the second round of the playoffs. I wasn't going to be that mad, but then
right, that was one of the weirdest playoff games of all time. Actually,
it was one of the and arguably one of the biggest upsets in the history of the National Football League, because 49ers going in that game shouldn't have won that game, but yet they did. And, you know, as I said, of all the teams that Rodgers had, the one that was probably the most complete was the 2021 team on both offense and defense. I mean, because if you recall before that, not even the 2014 and 2016 that actually went to the NFC Championship games, they did not have as good of a defense as the 2021 Packers did. It's not even. The Packers defense in 2021 was just good. They were really good. In fact, the 49ers they didn't score like almost no offensive points. And I think they only kicked one. No, hold on a second. They only kicked total points via a field goal. That was about it. They didn't score an offensive touchdown. That one touchdown was from the block that I myself, I remember seeing that play. I was like, what the hell just happened? I did not see that coming in any shape or form. But yeah, I know it's late for me to get on. I want to sort of recap that Niner Packer game that we saw last week. Personally, I'm not really too surprised by how it actually went out. But what I was really shocked by was how sort of mediocre the 49ers offense was in that game. But also sort of same with the defense.
Do you blame it on the rain?
The weather, to me, certainly did play a factor. And I also think the offense got a little cut off guard when Deebo Samuel got hurt. And when that happened, they were forced to quickly adapt without him. But fortunately, it did work out in the end. But the game could have gone so much smoother had Deebo not gotten hurt, along with that lack of rain. I mean, if you compare, like, for example, the playoff game last year against Dallas and also the one before that, I'm not talking about the Packer game. I'm talking about the Vikings game in 2019, 2020.
I was at that game, actually. That was the first ever playoff game at Levi's, without counting the Super Bowl where the Broncos won.
I mean, the thing is, I felt like the conditions definitely played a role. I mean, it was the same sort of thing that happened in 1996 and 1997 when the Niners were trying to deal with the Green Bay Packers with Favre at that time. Because let me give you all, actually, I'm sure the old guys in here remember what I'm going to talk about, all right? But based on some old highlight tapes I saw, the 49ers took on Philadelphia in 96. This was, in fact, their very first playoff meeting with them at Candlestick Park. And Steve Young was healthy going into the game, but after the game, his ribs, they weren't doing so well. And then the following week against Green Bay and Lambeau, he was really having a lot of trouble moving because bad ribs. And because of that, they had to take him out and replace him with Elvis Gerback. And the conditions at Lambeau were even worse than they were at Candlestick. It was like heavy rain that day. Heavy rain. And then also you got to count the mud too.
It was January ugly. Seems to be the biggest rain month for the West Coast.
Yeah, but as I said, though, that Packer game in 96, that was at Lambeau in Wisconsin. But then, of course, I talk about that NFC Championship game the following year later. That one also took place in some very questionable conditions. Rainy and muddy, especially when Chuck Leavely made that 100, nearly like, I don't know how many yard kickoff return to make it 23-10. And that turned out to be the final score of that game. I mean, historically, Fords are not really great in bad weather, but that hasn't always been the case. As you saw, they did very well at Lambeau Field defensively. in 2021 against Green Bay. And also, I want to also point this out.
Hufanga.
Preference. In 1988, they took on in their own stadium at Soldier Field, and it was freezing temperatures. Yet Joe Montana killed the Bears. I mean, it's just not. They don't play as smoothly. The Niners are just used to playing in usually good conditions, or at least like dry field conditions, at least. But yeah, weather was definitely a problem. I also think the secondary was absolute, especially Ambry Thomas. Get him out of there. He got a couple pass interference calls.
Two pass interference calls. And I was at the 49ers bar in Tempe on the ASU campus, and there was a guy just absolutely screaming after that second pass interference. He's like, get out of the fucking game, Ambry. Just incredibly pissed.
See, the thing is, you see that's what I miss about Hufanga, who's now out with a serious injury. Fortunately, he'll come back next year. That was a huge loss. In fact,
the secondary next year is going to be so epic when Hufanga is healthy.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I mean, I don't want to jump the shark yet because obviously the game has not been played. But let's say we do go to Super Bowl 58 in Vegas. I feel like the absence of Hufanga going to be felt strongly because you'll be going up against either Lamar Jackson again, like you did on Christmas, or you're going to go up against Kermit the Frog himself.
The best quarterback in the entire league.
I mean, I wouldn't say he's the best quarterback in the league, at least this year. I mean, that honor, I'm a Niner fan, but I have to acknowledge the facts as they are. The best quarterback in the National Football League is probably Lamar Jackson. But however, he's second place for me. And then after that, I would say it's Mahomes. Dak Prescott, by the way, is overrated, and I'm still going to say he's overrated.
Yeah, but he did have a good year this year.
But no, I don't care about how good his year was because he doesn't show up when it really matters, and that's the playoffs. It doesn't matter how great you are on the regular. The real question is, can you show up in the playoffs? And the fact is, Dak just can't. But I also believe, as I said, the problem with all these great quarterbacks, same thing with Drew Brees. It was the same thing with Peyton Manning and also with Rodgers. It doesn't matter how great your quarterback is. And also, don't forget, Dan Marino. It doesn't matter how great your quarterback is. If the rest of the team is not good enough, you're not going to win anything. And
I wanted to give a quick shout out to 49er Minded, aka Bashar, who
I heard
he has. Everyone check out his channel. Actually, he makes great Niners content. He does a lot of live streams. He actually had a live stream on that I watched earlier, and he was actually on. I think he did two tonight because there was one that I watched the archive of earlier, and then before I came on, he was doing a stream, so I got to check it out. Everyone subscribe to 49er Minded. He has a great show. Has a lot of good guests on.
Just sub his channel. I've known him for a year. I've known him since 2009 on YouTube, and then I met him in 2018 when the Niners played the Giants on Monday night with Nick Mullins as quarterback. So yeah, shout out to Bashar. But yeah, go ahead.
I don't like to remember those days because
I know.
See, Nick Mullins, okay, we already saw what he did in Minnesota. And let's be honest, he had as I remembered him. And, a lot of people thought the same thing was going to happen with Brock Purdy.
Hey, he looked good in his first ever start, though, against the Raiders in that game, the last Battle of the Bay. He'll be known as a legend forever because he won the last Battle of the Bay game. So
yeah,
he'll still be known as a legend.
And that was honestly good revenge for 2014. I remember that game against the Raiders at the Coliseum. I was fucking infuriated.
Oh, that was that's the game where I pretty much officially lost faith in Kaepernick.
That was the game, in my opinion, that sort of sealed Kaepernick for me. No, actually, no. Let's also be honest here, okay?
Or was it maybe it was the Thanksgiving game before that?
I don't, because the thing that was hard, I remember there was a meme going on about that had Kaepernick dressed as a trash can back then. The thing that sucked about that is 2012 and 2013, he was a damn good quarterback, and so I didn't want to lose faith in him, but he regressed more than any quarterback I've ever seen. He would basically do the opposite of what Alex Smith did, where Alex Smith didn't look good for his first 5 years or so. But then once
Look,
Jim
let me
Harbaugh
tell
came there, it
you,
all changed.
let me tell you what I think would have happened. Okay. What I think really happened. Okay. First of all, I believe the downfall of that 2014 team was the moment they lost to Seattle in the Thanksgiving game. That was the downfall of the team. They never recovered from that game. If you cannot beat Seattle at your own like newly built stadium with a team constructed like that, you're not going anywhere. And then all of a sudden, you started seeing all these losses pop up. And then the Raiders game, I felt like that really broke them. Seattle was bad, but it was the Raider game that really broke them because the Raiders were terrible in 2014. And they wanted revenge. And then, and also, I don't know, maybe the Raiders were trying to prove a point or something. And, to be fair to that Raiders squad at that time, they were still sort of warming up. They ended up actually making the playoffs 2 years later, but then they ended up going one and done against Houston, all because Derek Carr did not play that game. I remember what happened. But, it's really sad, though, what happened to the Raiders at the end of the day. Just a god-awful owner who just, I don't know, for some reason I felt like Del Rio got prematurely fired, but that's beside the point. I'm getting off topic here. But, yeah, but Colin Kaepernick, though, he was like a 2-year wonder. Because once Harbaugh left, that was the end of Kaepernick's career. And, it almost makes me wonder what would have happened if we had kept Alex Smith instead. And to be quite fairly honest with you, especially with chat here, I felt like there would have been some stability with this football team. But what we all saw with Jimmy would have been the same thing with Alex. Alex will have his good games. He'll have his bad games, make the playoffs, and then maybe come up short of the Super Bowl or something. That's what I think would have happened if Alex had stayed with the team.
Yeah, you never know. And it's funny because when the Niners drafted Kaepernick in 2011, I, like a lot of Niners fans, were extremely excited because at that point, I only started watching the 49ers in 2007. So Kaepernick was the only quarterback that I had ever seen. And he was coming off the 2010 year where they went 6-10, but almost won the NFC West, after the Giants won their first World Series. And I was excited, but, with Harbaugh, I was like, okay, give, kind of just like with Jimmy when we first drafted Trey, let's give Alex like another chance. He's coming off 2011, Harbaugh has his best year since being drafted in 2005, and he looked good. But in 2012, actually, of course, the Niners fell short in the NFC Championship game to the Giants with Kyle Williams. You all know what happened. But the 2012 year, Alex was actually, before he got injured, I think he had the best completion rate in the whole NFC, or maybe even the whole NFL. Or something.
I remember that, in 2012, he was actually looking really, really good. But the game that I sort of felt that really left a bad taste in my mouth was the rematch game against the New York Giants where he threw 4 picks. That really made me mad, and that's where I wanted Kaepernick in. But
yeah, I remember that game. I kind of forgot that he threw 4 picks because I was looking at my old videos actually, and I was actually looking at the video that I made from that game. But I forgot he threw 4 picks. So I remember there was a game we played at Arizona on Monday night that I wasn't able to go to the game because my mom was sick. But Alex looked pretty damn good in that game. And then in the Rams game when we tied where he got injured, that was the first game that I witnessed, and the first NFL game in general, not just 49ers game, but where it ended in a tie.
Oh, I think I know what Bashar is talking about. I remember that game. I remember Kaepernick threw 2 pick sixes.
Are you Bashar, are you talking about what year are you talking about? Actually,
I think it's 2015. I remember
that. Yeah, it was at the 47-7 game because I was at that game. Yes, that was my senior year of high school. I was at that game when 47-7, and obviously like my buddy who ended up moving to the Bay Area when he went to the Coast Guard after. Actually, I remember he was Snapchatting me, like he's a Cardinal. He's like, Danny, what the fuck is going on with your team right now?
I'm not gonna lie. I was not even upset that we got massacred. I was actually laughing when I saw that game being processed because I was like, holy crap, they really fell off after Harbaugh left. And if I was laughing more at the fact that Harbaugh was proven right about that, the fact that Jed York cannot run a team He just can't. But I felt like the real wake-up call, though, was not really until 2016 with Chip Kelly and all. Tom Sula, I almost felt like that whole thing was a coup d'etat, looking back. Because Tom Sula was part of the Harbaugh coaching staff. But nobody wanted to play for him, and everybody just retired or went to other teams in free agency. I remember that whole disastrous offseason. And, I don't know. I don't know if
was typically the head coach before. I mean, he was the interim head coach when after Singletary got fired and before Harbaugh was head coach. So that's, I think, that just shows symbolism, is the fact that they literally went backwards after all the success that Harbaugh had. And yeah, says Tom Sula was a joke. What's funny? I remember when he first got hired, people remember all those memes about how he looked like the porn star Ron Jeremy.
I thought he looked like Carl from Aqua Teen Hunger Force.
I haven't seen that, so I can't comment on that, but that's fun.
But yeah, 2015, 2016 Kaepernick was just an absolute disaster. And then but I felt like what really ended Cap's career, besides Harbaugh besides Harbaugh leaving for Michigan. And you know what? Looking back now at it, I think Harbaugh made the right choice to go back to Michigan.
So I was going to ask, so what are your thoughts on Jim Harbaugh being hired as the new head coach of the Los Angeles Chargers?
Oh, okay. First of all, chat, I just want to say, and also Danny too, I will never refer to the Chargers as the LA or Los Angeles Chargers.
I almost called them I called them San Diego Chargers in my video.
Bro, you got it right. You got it right. They will never be LA, in my opinion. LA is the Rams house all day. LA is their turf. It will never be Chargers territory. The Chargers are the San Diego Chargers.
Well, it's just so fucked up that they would steal a team from San Diego, because San Diego is an awesome city. Like,
I still don't understand it. San Diego is literally one of the most underrated cities. It's a very nice city. There's nothing wrong with it.
Weather in the entire country, I think. In the Phoenix area, it's only a 5-hour drive to hour and a half flight from
San Diego is like literally there's literally nothing wrong with that city. Nothing. I don't know why they left it.
Yeah, so my friend and I actually went to San Diego to go to a Giants Padres game in 2021, and we're hanging out with some Padre fans kind of by that sandbox there. And I was asking them, I was like, "Are you guys still Charger fans?" And they all said that they were. Yeah, like, yeah, we still do support the Chargers, because the only benefit is it is a short drive, so it's not like they have to go too far if they want to go to any games. But it's just a really weird situation.
The thing is, I felt like they could have gotten something done in San Diego, the stadium-wise. Just blow up Qualcomm Stadium and then replace it with a whole new stadium instead. They could have done that, but no, they're like, no, we'll just move up north to Hollywood because we can, even though the Rams and Stan Kroenke are going to screw us over.
It would have made more sense if they had done that before. Like, if the Rams had stayed in St. Louis, it would have made more sense, at least.
No. Listen, I know some people were actually sort of shitting on me back in the day, but let's make this clear, okay? I was actually very supportive of the Rams' return to Los Angeles. I supported it.
No, I was supportive of it also. I'm just saying it would have made more sense if they, in that case, for the Chargers, because it doesn't make sense.
No, you know who should be in LA?
Teams, at least, yeah.
No, LA only needs one team. But of all the teams that played in LA, the one team that I think that would definitely bring in all the fans over is the Raiders. Do you not know about the history of the LA Raiders?
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah. And I remember Damon Bruce back on his show was saying, like, when the Chargers first went through. So LA now has two teams, and neither of them are the Raiders. The NFL just isn't making any sense right now.
If it were Rams and Raiders, I felt like they would be competing more for fans, but Rams and Chargers, come on, man. All the LA fans are all going to be Rams fans. And besides,
they're Niner fans. Let's be real. The Rams have barely even a home. I mean,
the millennial LA fans are definitely 49er fans for sure.
Yeah, Gen Z millennial. Yeah, that's true.
I think the Gen Zers over time and the alphas are definitely going to be Rams fans, but the boomers I think, and the Xers are still Rams fans in LA. I mean, it really depends on the generation, honestly, because if you're a LA Rams fan, living throughout basically most of the 50s all the way up to the 1994, chances are I think the Boomers and the Xers were all Rams fans in LA. But I don't know. But here's the thing. My overall position on LA and the Rams is what Stan Kroenke did was that he undid the damage that Georgia Frontier did in 1995. He undid that bullshit move. It was a bad move to begin with because St. Louis, I mean, I'm thinking business sense here. They literally should have just stayed in LA. And, it was even weird that they were playing in Anaheim. They were literally playing in Disneyland from 1979 to 94. And I heard, Ice Cube once said, the rapper, he once said that the Rams did that shit because they wanted to get away from all the black fans there.
I know Ice Cube is a big Raiders fan, has made a lot of Raiders rap songs, actually. It's actually funny. So the NFL trash talking circle, and I was a big part of that. And this is back when the Rams were like 2010, when the Rams were still in St. Louis. There were a lot of Rams. They were all from LA, and I was so confused. Like, there's not even at least going to be one Rams.
Remember that one guy? I remember actually interacting with a couple Rams fans from LA. There's like this one guy who was also TTC too. He was from LA, and I remember he was part of this Bring Back the Rams like group.
Yeah, his name was Money Mike. I remember. I don't know if JD's still watching, but I know that he actually met him at Candlestick before a game in 2011. I remember that. Yeah, Money Mike. But what's funny? This is gonna even sound crazy. So apparently, the Rams actually moved back to LA, and he had to move to Missouri. Apparently,
oh, that's getting screwed, mega screwed over. Imagine like literally, you finally get your home city, your home turf finally gets their team back, but then you have to take the place of the team that just left that city that stole the team from you. That's messed up. That's so much bad luck. But I bet he's willing to accept that because at least the place where he was born and raised at least finally got their team back. Yes. But it took a long time. And I feel like
St. Louis is a baseball town, which it absolutely is.
I mean, they love hockey, they love baseball. I think the NBA would do well in St. Louis too, and I think they used to have the Hawks before they moved to Atlanta. But yeah, when it comes
St.
to
Louis,
football,
a lot of people in St. Louis that are going to be just Chiefs fans because it's the same state,
I mean, it's bittersweet for them, to be honest, because they have to root for someone from literally across the state, literally Kansas City. It's sort of like SF versus LA. It's like Niner fans have to root for the Lakers down south. I feel like some people would have a hard time swallowing that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want to sort of talk a bit about the Harbaugh hiring by the Chargers.
Yes.
First of all, I think it's a great hire, but I feel like for this to succeed, they need to give Jim Harbaugh a lot of control of the roster in order for this to truly shine. Because if you remember when he was in San Francisco for a few years, it seemed very clear to a lot of people he wanted full control of the team. He did not want Balky or Jed York to meddle with anything. And in retrospective, they probably should have listened to him. But this is something that they need to be very be aware of, is that he's a control freak. He wants complete control over the team. Like, this is what he did in Michigan, and I bet that's what he wants with the Chargers. So the question is will the Spanos family give Jim Harbaugh that control that he never had in San Francisco?
Yeah.
Because for their sake, they need Harbaugh to control the team. Because if they're going to win football games again, he needs to control it, but he also needs to, I don't know. I don't really know if he can really repeat the same magic he had here. But if he does, Patrick Mahomes is definitely going to be having nightmares in his sleep. I mean, I really hope.
I don't know about that, but if he's able to get along with Dean Spanos and the Chargers front office better than he got along with Jed York and Trent Baalke, I guess because if they give him all the control, like you said, then he will have a lot more success.
And he could be there longer for all we know. And that would actually make me mad, honestly, because
I'm just happy he's in the AFC.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. If he went to Seattle or Arizona, I would have been mad as hell because then we would have to face him. And I'm not going to lie, I do fear the man. He's very scary. He's intimidating. And there's a reason why I made him my profile picture, because I respect him that much. Because he's the man that brought this organization back to life when it went underground for like 8 years, from 2003 to 2010.
Right.
That's how much I respect the man, and he's still my guy. But once Shanahan, though, if he ever wins a Super Bowl, then obviously I got to change it. But there's a reason why I still love Harbaugh, because he's the very first Niner coach I grew up with. And that's saying something for someone as young as me. But man, I miss him, and I wish him nothing but the success with the Chargers. But I mean, the good news, though, is that unlike in San Francisco, he has a proven quarterback, Justin Herbert. And I feel like this is now going to convince Herbert to stay, because I think his rookie contract was about set to expire soon. But I think, fortunately, now this is going to convince him to stay, because Jimmy is definitely that good of a coach. And I really want Herbert to succeed and to get rid of Patrick Mahomes.
So that's a good transition, because you said that if Kyle Shanahan wins the Super Bowl, you're going to have to change your profile picture. Well, Sean, I believe you will be changing your profile picture after February 11th, because this will be the year that Shanahan finally wins the Super Bowl, and the Niners finally win their first championship in our life. I truly do believe that.
I mean, I hope so, but knowing Kyle Shanahan's history, because here's the thing. He has that sort of like same reputation as Andy Reid right now before he won Super Bowl 54. Everybody called him a choke artist. Everybody called him like someone that can't win the big one despite having all these good teams around him. You see, what I feel like, if you remember Super Bowl 51 when he was OCing the Falcons.
Yeah.
As great an offense.
So Slita Sports Live in the ETL, I don't know if he's still watching. Actually, I'll pull up, since you're in here now, I'll pull up what he said. Now, I personally think this is a clown take, but hold on. Sorry, we got chat's went crazy. I'm going to have to find this real.
I mean, I'm just saying Shanahan needs to escape the curse of Super Bowl 51 in order to really, win the Super Bowl, or even to get past the NFC Championship game again.
Yeah. Now, Slita, the Falcons fan, he'll never root for Shanahan. He calls him Kyle Shanachoker, as you see right there, because of that Super Bowl 51. But the thing is that he was facing Tom Brady, and yeah, he didn't call the right play calls, but he wasn't even the head coach. He was only the offensive coordinator. He called too many passing plays. And Quinn still could have overrode it. So
I will forgive this guy, honestly. I mean, I understand how he feels. If your team chokes that badly in the Super Bowl and is unable to recover to this day, I can understand why he would never want to forgive Shanahan for that. It's just no excuse. How the hell do you blow a 25-point lead in the Super Bowl? Like, just how the hell do you do that?
The best quarterback of.
No, but also, have you always forgotten when you're facing them like literally at 28-3 with the clock running out, you run the ball. Run the ball. And you know who paid the price for not doing that? Seattle. They did not run the ball. If you're literally like, it's also the same
Harbaugh should have done that at the end of Super Bowl 47 too.
Oh God. You know what? Here's the thing. I feel like the only way Niners are going to break this sort of drought of Super Bowls, they got to do the following. Number one, win the NFC Championship game this Sunday. But also, maybe they're going to have to be Baltimore. Because as you remember, the first Super Bowl that we witnessed in our lifetime was against Baltimore, and we lost.
Yeah, and the second one was against Kansas City that we also lost. Now, I would obviously, I mean, being a Niner fan is different than if you're a Falcons fan, but I blame Shanahan just more just because he was the head coach for the loss to the Chiefs than I would him being the offensive coordinator and blowing that big lead to Tom Brady.
I would say Super Bowl 54 was a bigger choke, at least to a certain degree, but still, nothing can topple 28-3. Just nothing can. It was a bad choke, but
Dan Quinn's ultimately the one that should be responsible for that choke, in my opinion.
And also, let me tell you something about Super Bowl 54. Another reason why we lost that football game, Jimmy Garoppolo. That's the reason why we lost that game. Now, the funny thing was,
although I mean, hey, if his pass to Kittle before halftime wasn't for that holding, then it could have been a different story.
I mean, we'll never know. I mean, that's the mystery. But the thing is, I also blame the bad secondary too for not covering Tyreek Hill in that play. When Mahomes threw the deep ball pass, like it was like 3rd and 15. Literally, that was like a whole team failure, if anything, in Super Bowl 54. And looking back, it makes me wonder what would have happened if the 49ers had a reliable quarterback like Brock Purdy in Super Bowl 54 instead of Jimmy. I think they would have won the football game.
That is true.
They had
Now,
Purdy in there.
I have a feeling we will play the Chiefs again if we get past the lines.
I think I'm gonna say now. I'm gonna predict it. I think it's 49ers. We're going to Baltimore. We got to go up against them again.
Yeah, well, I was gonna ask then who would we prefer, but actually I want to answer Rocky New Era for his. But yes, if you were born the last time that won the Super Bowl, he was not. 2000. I was born in '97, so we both were born after they won their last Super Bowl.
Fuck!
I want to give a late birthday shout out to Rockin' New Era as well. He just turned 30. Damon Bruce also a day later. Give him a shout out on your thing.
Wait, so hold on. When was this guy born?
Well, it's in his name.
84?
Yeah.
No, that makes him 40.
I'm sorry. Happy 40. My bad. Sorry. Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Well,
you're
at
right.
least
no, because I remember too. Because I remember. Yeah. His notice or not. He tweeted. He's like now. He tweeted the "I'm a man. I'm 40." thing on there. He's like, I can now wear that shirt.
I mean, at least this guy.
In my mind, I forgot
at least
that I
you
just
saw
turned
the
27.
Super Bowls,
I
man.
thought I was still 17. Also, my bad.
At least this guy saw 3 of the 5 Super Bowls. That's cool. I wish I saw them. I mean, I could at least live with just one, honestly. If I saw at least one, I'm fine. Though, I mean, the thing is, the best part about having a good franchise quarterback is that your window stays open for a very long time, for like maybe a decade at best. And I think in the case of Brock Purdy, if the team, I don't know, is able to keep the core or at least get some good pieces or something over the time, I think this team may have a window for 2 to 3 Super Bowls. But that's also going to largely depend on what the owner does, because I'm scared that Jed York is going to be a huge baby again. I mean, a lot of Niner fans don't trust him. They haven't trusted him since Harbaugh. And I feel like the only way he's going to completely restore that trust is if they win that Lombardi. It's that simple. If he wins the 6th Super Bowl title, then I feel like everybody's issues with Jed will finally fade. It's literally the only way it ends.
Well, he's gotten a lot more respect because of all the success lately, and it's been years.
No, this is the important thing I want people to understand. The reason why we have seen so many good teams literally throughout football history is mainly because the owner does one thing. They stay the fuck out. They stay the fuck out. Like, for example, New England, like, Kraft doesn't intervene with Belichick. And then you have, the Hunt family doesn't intervene with the Chiefs, too. And then, of course, you have in Baltimore, too. I mean, and yeah, especially Eddie D during his prime. He didn't really intervene with the team too much until that 1987 upset against the Vikings. But the key success for all these teams is you don't intervene with the football team. If you want to know an example of what happens when an owner intervenes too much, let me give you all good examples. And you probably all know who these guys are. Dan Snyder, Jerry Jones, the Spanos family. And then you had Frontier. Then you had, pretty much any. Oh, yeah. Bidwills, too. Bob McNair. I think he's long dead, I think. I mean, seriously, when you have an owner that intervenes too much with the football team, it goes to shit. Also, the McCaskies. Yeah, the Bears. They're so screwed as long as McCaskies own them. I don't think they're going anywhere, ever. If I'm Caleb Williams, I would pray so hard that I don't go to Chicago. No quarterback will succeed in Chicago. And Jay Cutler was lone proof of that.
Right.
But
So
yeah,
I want to
the
shift
owner.
gears a little bit and get in
Yeah.
this matchup on Sunday and
Oh, the
SG Sports
NFC
Talk channel. I'm
Championship
gonna
game.
yeah. I'm gonna, and I'm probably only gonna be on stream for another 10 minutes, but I'm gonna SG Sports Talk. I will get you in a few minutes before we close out the show. But
Okay.
let me just
Okay.
I actually want to say some interesting notes. So the line or Kyle Shanahan already has 7 playoff victories, and the Lions only have 9 playoff victories of all time. Now, the last year the Lions have never won a Super Bowl, but in 1957, the year that my mom was born, they won an NFL championship. And that was the last time they've won an actual championship. And also the Lions have not beat the Niners in the Bay Area since 1975. Not that this has anything to do with this matchup on Sunday, of course, but those are all just interesting facts.
My honest thought about this NFC Championship game is we should not treat anything lightly. In any NFC Championship game since 2011, I've humbled down, and this is like the second, if not the toughest game of the year besides the Super Bowl itself. I mean, you're literally facing up a great team. I'm going to first give, of course, a shout out to Detroit because these Lions fans have suffered for so long. Longer than we have, honestly. If anything, we're spoiled. But these Lions fans, man, I just pity them. And I don't really blame the whole country for literally wanting to root for them. But we have to... I mean, I'm a Niner fan. I got to root for the Niners here. But, I mean, let's say Detroit beats us and goes to the Super Bowl. I don't mind it if they win because, I mean, they never had a Super Bowl. They never won a conference championship. They never won literally anything.
Yes, if
But
we were
still,
playing any other team, or if the Lions were playing any other team but the Niners, I'd be rooting for them too. AJ, I remember when you called into Tom and Copes, I heard you make that point actually too. Yeah. But you also said something funny in your call, AJ. You were like, it's not our fault that the Lions have been notorious losers for years. As
it's
for
the Ford
the Niners
family.
Being the
as I said, people keep the owners out of football, and that's the Ford family. That was their own doing, and yeah, they make decent cars, but they don't make good football teams until like maybe now. But maybe they're finally stepping out of the way and letting Campbell do his magic, which I think is what they should be doing. Well, unfortunately for us, because that gives us some competition. And by the way, I want to point out some stuff, at least regarding to the injuries. Debo is going to play on Sunday. I mean,
yes, Debo was questionable before. He is going to play on Sunday, which is going to be a big improvement, on a big factor, because when Debo went out last week, that's when the offense kind of looked. And part of the reason why the offense was so rusty, I think a little bit is because of all the time off they got much to rest, but rest to rust. So
in my opinion, they got too much rest off, but. I mean, there's a reason why so many guys want the bye. They want.
I remember
to rest,
Steve Young, even when he was on KMR, even pointed out that might be an issue.
Also, on the Detroit side of things, they got some major injuries that are not good news for them. I think they lost one of their offensive linemen to an injury. I'm trying to see here. Let's see, Lions injuries. Let's see here. I'm looking up CBS Sports here because there is a major injury for Detroit that could hurt them. Okay, let's see here. So Sam Laporta and Frank Ragnow are going to play. But let's see here. There's a major injury here. Let's see here.
And by the way, I would like to get SG Sports Talk channel on here real quickly. Welcome to the stream.
Hey, Danny Golding TV, how's your day going so far?
It's going good. How's your day going? I'm just excited for this matchup on Sunday.
I'm really excited for this NFC Championship game between the Lions and the 49ers. I think it's going to be an interesting matchup, but I'm kind of scared because Detroit's also a really good football team, and if you let them go easily, they can really create some destruction on you. So
here it is.
Take this
Jonah Jackson, that's his name. So he was the left guard for Detroit, and he's hurt, and he's been ruled out for the game. So Frank Ragnow, who's also been having some injury issues, he's going to take his place. But, yeah, they look a little banged up on the offensive line. So that's good news if you're the 49ers defensive line. But, yeah Jonah Jackson's the major injury.
That might limit some of the production on Jared Goff, actually. And, SG, I do agree with you. This Lions team is legit. Now, they're defensively, they don't have a whole lot of big names, but Aiden Hutchinson, and I think it's interesting, he's actually from Michigan and went to the University of Michigan, so he's a straight-up hometown guy. He's a beast. Other than that, I know their secondary is kind of weak. I think they're ranked 10th, or they're ranked like 16th in pass defense. So the Niners, as I said earlier, I thought we should run CMC a lot more than we did, but they might end up might decide to do the opposite and just trust Purdy through the air a lot of times because of how poorly ranked their pass defense is.
Yeah, that's the thing. If you saw
got some big names with Amon St. Brown, Sam Laporta, but their running backs mainly Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. They have how Dan Campbell runs the offense there is what I kind of wish Shanahan would do more with having it not just be CMC but also Jordan Mason and Spen Mitchell in the mix as well.
I want to actually mention about the weather, speaking of which, because as you all know, it was very soaking wet at Great America last week. But now,
yes,
the Sunday forecast, it's gonna be cloudy. But the good news is there's no precipitation. It's just a little humid, but that's about it. It's dry. Everything will be dry for the NFC Championship game, so it should be easier for Brock Purdy to pass.
Hey, Danny Golding, what's your score prediction for the 49ers and Lions game?
So I gave 2 possible score predictions earlier. I'm just going to go all out and say that I'm predicting a 42-34 49ers victory. So it's going to be a really high-scoring game.
Bandwagon, I have the same question for you that I asked Danny.
I think it's going to be close. I don't think the defense is going to be that bad. Allowing this team to score 30 points. Are you out of your mind, Danny? This is the San Francisco 49ers here. But I do think Detroit will get to the 20-point mark.
Okay, but do you remember the first 5 games when it was a Purdy 30? That's what I'm thinking in those terms, and I'm thinking that the Lions, because they have such a high-powered offense too, that they're going to also put up 30. So therefore, the Niners
it's possible because 49ers secondary is trash. 49ers secondary is god-awful. So it is possible, but then again, though, I mean, 49ers got the 49ers best defense line in the National Football League, so I'm not going to rule out possibility. But yeah, I feel like to beat Detroit, they got to score 38 points against them. So I'm going to say 38-27 San Francisco over Detroit.
Hey, Danny, what are your top 5 keys?
Okay, I don't know if I have like a full 5 keys to the game, but obviously pressure Jared Goff, throw it through the air because the Lions are ranked 16th in pass defense. But I'll just say let's have a good mix, an appropriate mix between the pass and the run. So maybe let's say in the first quarter, we won't see any runs from CMC in the first quarter, but then in the second quarter, do nothing but just run it up their throat. So have like a good mix between the pass and the run. Just hopefully the Niners secondary plays better. Hopefully let's not have Ambry Thomas not have him in this game if possible.
2019, listen, I feel like the best case scenario is to repeat what happened in the 2019 NFC Championship game, where you basically run it up as much as you can, and by the time they're able to score some points, it's already too little too late. But yeah, in this case, though, I feel like it's going to be different than that one because, as you remember, Jimmy didn't even throw a lot. He only got like 88 total passing yards.
Yeah, he threw 8 times, and Mostert just scored 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, but imagine here where CMC's playing well, but then you also got Brock Purdy also playing well. That's a recipe for victory there. But then again, I cannot underestimate Detroit.
Yeah, no, you can't at all. And actually, since we're on Detroit, you guys weren't in the stream earlier. I actually don't even know if most people were on. This is Dan Campbell's press conference when he first got hired back in 2021. I think it's pretty fun.
I wanted this job bad because I felt like I knew this community. I played here. All right. Here's what I know. Just as an overall philosophy, you're going to say, well, what's this team going to be? What's it not going to be? Here's what I know. All right. I know that Detroit's made up of great people, some really good people. All right. This community is strong. This place has been kicked, it's been battered, it's been bruised, and I can sit up here and give you coach speak all day long. I can give you, hey, we're going to win this many games. I can't. that none of that matters, and you guys don't want to hear it anyway. You've had enough of that shit. So excuse my language. All right. Here's what I do know is that this team is going to take on the identity of this city. All right. And the city's been down, and it found a way to get up. All right. It's found a way to overcome adversity. All right. And so this team's going to be built on, we're going to kick you in the teeth. All right. And when you punch us back, we're going to smile at you. And when you knock us down, we're going to get up. And on the way up, we're going to bite a kneecap off. All right. And we're going to stand up. And then it's going to take 2 more shots to knock us down. All right. And on the way up, we're going to take your other kneecap, and we're going to get up. And then it's going to take 3 shots to get us down. And when we do, we're going to take another hunk out of you. Before long, we're going to be the last one standing.
So yeah, that's Dan Campbell when his nickname is Dan Gamble because he likes to go for it. He likes to take risks in general. And you know what's interesting also is he was on the 2008 Detroit Lions team that went 0-16. He was a tight end on that team, and now he's the head coach and leading him to their first playoff victory in 32 years, their first division title in 30 years, and all that. That's pretty cool. But I do expect that their run is going to end on Sunday, and the Niners will prevail. That's what I think. By the way, I was looking at the chat a little bit. Otis and Rocket were talking about how Joe Shasky, the Butcher Boy from 95.7 The Game, and Jerry Rice were throwing passage. I do remember that from a few years ago. That's a good callback, and that's really cool. I mean, how awesome is that to be able to play catch with Jerry Rice? Joe Shasky was definitely living the dream.
Hey, Danny.
Yeah, what's up?
I'm going to a sports bar to watch the 49ers and Lions game.
Well, you have fun. I live in Arizona, but I was at this big Niner bar that's right on the ASU campus last week, and it was epic. It was awesome. And it's funny because one of the TVs was ahead of the other ones because one of the other ones were YouTube TVs. So everyone tried to watch one TV and not even look at the other TVs. And we even almost took a vote like do we turn this TV off to keep it on? But no, it was an awesome vibe. But on Sunday, where I'm going to be watching the game this week, and I'm actually be watching with my friend Ray J, who's a huge Lions fan, who's originally from Detroit, moved here to Arizona when he was young, kind of like I think he was a little younger than I was when I moved here. And I went to high school with him, and the Lions actually had a little bit of success then, but overall they haven't. But he's always been loyal to the Lions. Him and his new wife just actually had a newborn baby a few months ago that's already decked in the Lions gear. And so that's what I'm watching.
A bandwagoner. When I heard that Levi Stadium wasn't hosting a watch party for the NFC Championship game, I said, "Are you kidding me? You're hosting this in Detroit? They're not even the whole championship game over there." I'm like, I didn't even know what was going on. Like, they were selling $17 tickets in Detroit, but not in San Francisco. I'm like, what's going on? Like, I bet Niner fans want to see the game at Levi's. So I was like, when I heard about that, I was like, this is just gotta be like out of my mind type of thing.
Are you talking about the watch party in Detroit?
The 49ers NFC championship game watch party isn't being held in Levi's Stadium. It's being held in Ford Field in Detroit.
Well, the home game, the game's at Levi's, so yeah, of course in Detroit they're gonna have a watch party. That's.
But I thought the watch party was gonna be happening at Levi's because don't the 49ers, anytime they have the playoffs, they always have the watch party in their house, and then they also have the watch party in their house, like the away team.
A watch party would only be at would have to be at the full stadium, and with the game being at Levi's, they're obviously not gonna have a watch party there.
But normally, watch parties are really fun because I've been to watch parties before, and they're really fun because they normally put the game on a big TV screen, and it's like you're watching the game live.
Let me say this though, okay? I want to say this about watch parties, okay? First of all, the point of watch parties is basically to give the fans that are abroad, that are like not even at home or something, to sort of like give them an experience that's sort of like similar to what an actual game would be. But it's not the same. But yeah, I mean, that's really the point. I mean, the Warriors had a watch party when the Warriors were winning the finals in Cleveland.
Yeah,
I mean,
they're more.
see
I
nothing
honestly
wrong with it.
forgot that was even a thing for the NFL. That seems like more of an NBA thing, is watch parties
Yeah,
for the
and
playoffs.
same with the NHL
Hey,
and Major League
Wagner,
Baseball.
so I agree with you about watch parties is that they're trying to get the fans together. That's really what their motive is,
No,
what
they're
they're
like
trying to get
parties.
here.
They're parties. And also,
Yeah.
but yeah,
It should
Danny,
be
I
free. It
wanted
should be almost free, in my opinion.
Danny, I also want to give, yeah, they should be free. But Danny, I want to give like an opinion on that press conference by Campbell, just watching that. I'm not going to lie. That has to be one of the most heartwarming, most inspiring, probably one of the best things I've ever heard a coach ever say, honestly, because Campbell literally understands that city.
Son of a bitch.
He literally understands what they're all going through. It's just Detroit. I mean, I don't blame them at all for what's going on here. Technical difficulties here, fellas.
Sorry, internet just it's not actually my internet. I think it's just sometimes when I have on the stream that my computer was doing that last week, but it didn't end the whole stream, so that's really all that matters. So
Okay. But also I wanted to just say though
for a little
that
bit.
the whole press conference by Campbell was just absolutely
That was inspiring, yeah.
That was not only inspiring, but that is just like that just shows how humble the man is. He's likable, he's charismatic. He cares about the football team, he cares about the fans. He wants to put an end to the bullshit once and for all in Detroit, and I wish them nothing but the best of luck in the future. But this year, come on, man, we got to kick your ass.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
We want to go
I hope
to
we
Vegas.
absolutely do kick the Lions' ass and beat them by 2 touchdowns. But I have a feeling that it's going to be a close game. I gave a really high score prediction. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a lot lower than that.
You actually, what was your prediction last week for the Packer game? Because I thought you were almost close. Because you said it was going to be close.
No, I think I said I think I said like 27. I think I said 31-24. So we ended up scoring 24. So I was a little close in that regard. I think
what you did get correct was that the football game was competitive, and
yes,
yeah, that game was competitive for the wrong reasons. Because I mean, it felt like, that game sort of reminded me a bit of it was like the offensive version of the 2021 divisional round in Lambeau, because that game was more defense, but this one was more offense. And it's kind of funny because the 49ers defense was not performing well in the first quarter, but then all of a sudden, I don't know, as the game progressed, the defense started making the big plays. I mean, they got the 2 interceptions, but they never got sacked. I don't know. Because that's the one thing I didn't like about that game. Jordan Love never got sacked. And that's something that they really got to fix here. And I'm sure they'll get it fixed with Jared Goff. Because Goff, Greg Cohen, say all you want about him. I mean, I don't like him, but he is right. Jared Goff is sort of a glorified Jimmy Garoppolo. But hey, I mean, he's got a good squad around him, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if they go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, he's a lot more consistent than Jimmy, though. I would say, at least as of late, the old Jimmy,
and he's healthier.
The old Jared Goff would be more like Jimmy. But hey, I remember for some reason, like if we're gonna talk about Jimmy and in regards to Goff's play lately, Jimmy's return to New England in the 2020 season, that was one of his most epic games. I mean, well, his best game as a 49er was the 48-46 showdown. That would be his best game. But
yeah, that game against Arizona, that was definitely the best Jimmy G game for me.
Yeah.
But I mean, listen. Jared Goff, I gotta say, he really found a way to turn his career around. And I'm happy for that guy. He's literally from here. He's from the Bay Area, and that's why I heard Novato is kind of conflicted on who they want to root for, either the homegrown kid or are they going to root for the 49ers. But, if I were those people, I'm just saying, guys, listen, I get he's a native. He's part of the town, part of the community, but come on, you got to support the 49ers. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, literally, of all the teams in the NFC that I would struggle to root for, they all in the Super Bowl, if it's not the Niners, the only one who I can really seem to tolerate, honestly, it's definitely Detroit. I wouldn't mind rooting for Detroit, but I want to beat them.
In any circumstance, I would, but not against us. I hope we destroy them. I hope we beat them by 3 touchdowns.
It would be. Listen, it's been like 3 NFC Championship games in a row, and it's starting to look a little familiar to me. to be quite honest. Yeah, he definitely turned his. Yeah, let me actually point out some stats, okay? So in 2021, when he first arrived in Detroit, he didn't look so good. He threw 19 TDs and 8 picks for like 3,000 yards. But then in the next 2 years, in 2022 and 23, he literally turned the whole ship around. In 22, he threw for over 4,000 yards, 29 touchdown passes, and 7 picks. And then in 23, arguably one of his best seasons ever. I think it's up there with his time in LA when he was at his peak. He threw for 30 TDs, 12 picks, and got 4.5 thousand yards. I mean, he's definitely, he definitely turned his whole career around. But listen, I also have to be honest here. If Lions go to the Super Bowl, they're gonna lose. I'm just saying. We can compete with Baltimore and Kansas City. Detroit will not win Super Bowl 15.
Well, okay, if they were to, I don't think they can compete with, or like they can compete with us, but I don't think they're going to beat. If they do beat us, then yes, they have a chance to beat either Kansas City or the Ravens.
They can beat. Actually, look, they can beat Kansas City because they already beat them once before, so they definitely have the formula to beat Mahomes. But Baltimore, no, they're going to get blown out by Baltimore. In fact, I'll be dead honest with you guys right now. If it's literally either us or the Lions against Baltimore, I think Baltimore actually has a pretty good chance of winning in Vegas. But if it's Kansas City, though, it's a little tougher, honestly, to say who's winning that game. Because I'm just saying right now, Baltimore is the best team in the National Football League for the most part. I feel like they're the most complete team. But, if Baltimore chokes this Sunday, which I kind of hope they do, then I feel like the odds for any NFC team going to Vegas will have a better shot at winning the whole thing. Because Mahomes is definitely vulnerable this year. This is literally him at his weakest. But I know for a fact it's not going to be for long. I know for a certainty, because we all saw how Mahomes was crying about having no receivers this season. I think they're going to solve that problem next year, rather being free agency or the draft. But yeah, I feel like Mahomes is going to get his wide receiver problems fixed, and then he's going to go back to producing the old numbers that he used to do in 2020, 2021.
Hey, bandwagoner, the AFC Championship game between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Baltimore Ravens, I think that's going to be a tough matchup because Patrick Mahomes is...
If you want me to pick a winner, I'm going to go to Baltimore.
Patrick Mahomes is going up against Lamar Jackson, who's looking like one of the greatest quarterbacks right now for the Ravens.
Lamar Jackson is arguably our generation's Michael Vick.
He's looking so good right now.
Except he can actually throw the football.
I'm saying Lamar Jackson's looking so good right now. Like, can you see how he plays, man? That guy can
definitely gonna be. He's definitely should get MVP regardless of
what happens. Like Lamar Jackson is such a great quarterback.
I want to reply to a comment. Rockin' New Era 84. This is like one of your friends, Danny. I want to reply to his comment about the refs helping Mahomes out. I want to say, yeah, that wouldn't shock me. You know why? Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce. They got to get the ratings for Vegas.
That's a big money grab for the NFL too.
That wouldn't shock me if they rigged that game at all for them. But I feel like from a ratings perspective, I feel like they'll be just fine, even with a 49ers Baltimore Super Bowl. They would be just fine. But if it's like any team involving the Chiefs, yeah, the ratings are definitely going to be definitely going to be.
When you look at Kansas City Chiefs fans, they're so enthralled with Taylor Swift that they would literally go to every single Chiefs game just to see her.
I cannot stand. Okay, first of all, people, I thought we were all over this when New England's dynasty was over. But, I will say this about Tom Brady. At least he did not have an annoying, there was no annoying presence there. Now, I'm not saying Taylor Swift herself is annoying. The problem is all this attention around her. And I don't like it.
I don't know. I disagree because I think it's good for the NFL because it exposes them to a whole nother group of fans that might not be NFL fans at all.
My female cousin was not a big football fan, but now all of a sudden she likes football because of Taylor Swift.
And the more the more younger people, especially girls, get into it, then
But good
the
news
better,
though. Good
I
news.
think. I don't know.
But I have good news though,
No.
fellas. She's not a
No, I have
bandwagon
to-
Chiefs fan. She's a 49er fan. So don't worry
I
about it.
have to say
Well, I
this
heard she
goes
actually
along
grew up
with-
an Eagles.
with,
I heard Taylor Swift actually grew up an Eagles fan. I even saw like a meme about that. Oh, maybe it's she sabotaged them. The Chiefs.
Danny, so what I was trying to say is that I was just saying like this whole Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce drama just has to stop. I don't know why people are so enthralled with her. She's a pop star, but like she goes to every single Chiefs game.
I mean,
and
she's like the
cheers on,
she's like sort
Travis
of
Kelce.
our. I mean, I don't want to piss people off, but she's almost as like popular as Michael Jackson when he was in his prime in the 80s. I mean, like that's literally Gen Z's like Michael
Her
Jackson
net
equivalent.
worth is worth way more than
Billions.
Kelsey's is.
And you know, that's the thing. You know what I feel like's going on, honestly? I almost feel as if Travis Kelce is getting ready to retire and he wants to settle down with someone he's definitely going to live off like freely. And that person is Taylor Swift. And I feel like in this case, he's being smart as hell. Because Travis Kelce, I mean, the amount of money he makes is literally nothing compared to Taylor Swift. Nothing. Taylor Swift makes so much.
Nothing, but it's like it's just not as nearly.
But look, you know, I also want to wonder, because this is something that I wonder, okay? Is Taylor Swift going to go to Baltimore, attend the AFC Championship game? Because that's an environment I feel like the Baltimore fans are going to really make it a hard time for her. Because Baltimore doesn't fuck around.
Well,
It's like,
here's the coolest
it's
thing
rough.
about Taylor Swift from this Taylor Swift stuff recently from an Irish perspective. Of course, Kyle Hugecheck's wife, Kristen Hugecheck, was the one that designed the jacket that Taylor Swift was wearing during the Chiefs-Dolphins wildcard game.
Oh yeah, I
coldest
will
game
say
of all
that.
time.
I will say that. Yeah, she's an excellent designer. She's very talented at her craft, and I don't know. I hope it goes more mainstream or what, because she generally has a lot of talent in her, and I would like to see more of her stuff be sold more commercially.
Yeah,
she's got talent.
I also found Kyle Juszczyk's wife. She's so talented. Like she can make all these outfits around different players. Like she made one of Brock Purdy, and then she made one on Deebo Samuel. I mean, she just like really talented. Like there's rarely you see women that talented as her. Like she's like, you ever see that? Like I've never seen.
But yeah, I want to ask though, Danny, do you feel like Taylor Swift's gonna go to Baltimore, or do you think she's gonna stay out of Baltimore? Because that place is rough. It's like sort of like Detroit, Philadelphia, or even Oakland, honestly.
Yes, but in all those cases, I don't think they're gonna harass her specifically, though. I mean,
But I'm sure they're gonna taunt Kelsey for
the
though.
bodyguard. Yeah, they'll talk shit. I mean, she's a billionaire. She can handle it. Like, I don't think.
I'm sure
I
she's
think
used
she'll be
to
in
it.
Baltimore. Yes.
I'm sure
Danny,
she's
when
used
I-
to the hate, but
Danny,
they're definitely gonna make it a tough time for Travis Kelce. I bet in Baltimore.
Danny, when I saw
can't wait.
when I saw the Travis Kelce Pfizer commercial on TV, that was legitimately the most cringiest commercial I've ever seen. I
bet
don't know
Aaron
why
Rodgers-
he's partnering with Pfizer. Like,
You know-
what does
Aaron.
Pfizer have to do with Travis Kelce? Come on.
By the way,
what-
Aaron
what-
Rodgers, because we all
Money
know
talks.
he's anti-vaccine.
No, but what does
Rodgers.
Travis Kelce have to do with Pfizer? Like, is he sponsoring Pfizer? Like, what is he
Yeah,
with it?
I guess he's
Like,
doing.
what is it?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah. He
Big
had
Pharma paid him to market their shit.
But
Yeah,
why
he got
do some
a
athletes
deal to do a
certain
sponsor
brands
with Pfizer.
like Steph Curry sponsors Under
Do a
Armour.
commercial with Pfizer.
I buy all of his products. You know, his shoes, his shirts, everything. Because I like.
I
Steph
want to
Curry.
respond to Danny. I want to respond to AJ's comment. Yeah, you cannot beat Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson's is like you can't. No matter what, Michael Jackson's the GOAT. Like
I
the
agree
amount
with
of
that. Like
stuff.
Taylor
power.
Swift is all right, but she's nothing compared to Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson might be the GOAT.
Hey,
If
since
we're
we're talking about Michael Jackson, I have a trivia question of either of you that are able to get it. Big event in Bay Area sports happened the exact same day that Michael Jackson died.
Okay, so this is June 2009. Oh boy, this is a tough one. This is a
Let me go. I'll say WrestleMania.
No.
Oh, is it when Steph Curry was drafted?
Yes.
Yes,
it was.
Got it. Because I actually guessed that one off my head. I didn't even search on Google. I was wondering, but then I was like, no way did they get him at the same time when Michael Jackson
I remember
died.
that day because I'm a little bit older than you. I was 12 and I was already making videos on YouTube. I remember that day very, very well, actually.
Oh my god. But yeah, that was that's crazy. I didn't know that they drafted Steph. Oh yeah,
Hey,
absolutely. Thriller's the greatest music video ever made. No, that.
Hey,
yeah,
Danny
that thing is
Golding,
dope.
I really like watching you when you called into KMBR 680, the sports leader with Bonza Hill. That was one of the greatest calls ever.
Or you mean 95-7 the game when I called? When was that? Oh, in 2019 after the NFC or after the Seattle game.
So when you called into 95.7 the game, I have to say that was the greatest calls ever, man. Like you totally killed it.
Well, no, thank you. But which are you talking about? Then the 20 after 2019 after the
with Bonza Hill on the morning roast.
All right. Well, actually, so the last time I actually called in to Bonte and Chesky, it wasn't during the morning roast. It was actually when they did their own.
You could say Michael Jackson was dual threat, just like Lamar Jackson is. But the thing is, this is one of my more controversial opinions. Speaking of which, Danny, I'm very conservative and old school when it comes to quarterbacks, right?
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of running dual threat quarterbacks. I felt like Kaepernick left a really bad taste in my mouth, especially then Lance happened. And then, I don't know, man, for some reason. And once Brock Purdy showed up, because we all know Brock is an old school throwing quarterback. That's honestly what I prefer. I prefer the quarterbacks that just throw. Yeah.
Right. What were your initial thoughts of the whole thing that Kaepernick was kneeling the national anthem and everybody was upset that you're not looking at the flag? You're not paying homage to the flag.
My honest opinion on that, because here's the thing. I'll say this one thing. That shit ended his career. No doubt. That was the end of his football career. I was like, oh, Cap, what have you done? I remember I was actually, so it was fall 2016, right? So this was around my junior year in high school at that time. My first reaction to that shit happening was, oh, Cap, what have you done? And because I knew at that moment there was going to be a huge media circus. And it was an election year too. Like Donald Trump was on the rise to power. And I just knew that this was very inappropriate to do such things at that time. But my honest opinion, though, was that, I mean, he absolutely had the freedom to do what he wanted. It was okay for him to do what he did, but I knew he wasn't coming back from that.
I mean, after Colin Kaepernick was kneeling during the national anthem,
my feeling though was neutral overall. My personal
every
was
single
neutral.
other player was also doing the same exact thing.
I mean, yeah. I mean, because most of the big players in the National Football League on most rosters are all African Americans. I mean, I can't blame them at all. I mean, they've been pressed for so long. I literally cannot blame them for feeling the way they did in 2016. But the fact is, Kaepernick's career ended up that day during that preseason game, the moment he took.
Hey, Danny, so the San Francisco 49ers are not intimidated by the Detroit Lions in any way. I think they're going to do everything possible to find a way to make this team crumble and break them down so they don't reach Super Bowl 58.
I mean, Jonah Jackson is hurt, so it's not. I mean, it's plausible. He's hurt, and Debo is going to play the football game, so it's very plausible they might make it.
Hey, Danny, it would be something really really cool to see. It would be really cool. It would be really great to see Kyle Shanahan and Dan Campbell fight on the field.
No. Maybe
if it was Harbaugh, maybe then possibly, but no.
No, I don't want to see that again. First
of
all, that whole Harbaugh Schwartz thing.
Your question about, I mean, I didn't. I'll admit
that whole Harbaugh Schwartz thing.
I was like, okay,
that shit was preventable. That should have never happened. That was clearly Jim Schwartz being, I don't know, him being a boy at that moment. I mean, Jim Harbaugh's a rough guy when you're around him. Like, he doesn't mess around, and you got to expect the hard, rough handshakes. You got to expect it.
6 weeks of the season, I would not have believed it. So a credit to Jim Harbaugh and his entire staff of what they've been able to accomplish this season.
It looks like he's been through the ringer. Looks like he played the game
Matty
today.
Stafford is there.
You saw him say no penalties. They've committed 15. Stafford throws, complete to Calvin Johnson. Stanford man nowhere in sight. And the San Francisco 49ers are 5-1 for the first time since 1998. Game 2, America's Game of the Week, coming up after these messages.
You saw the exuberance as Jim Harbaugh and the Niners were running off the field. Watch what happens next. There's a quick handshake between Harbaugh and Jim Schwartz. Schwartz says something to him briefly, and then this ensues.
6 catches today for 102 yards.
Jim Schwartz, you can see in the white top and the gray pants there, yelling and screaming back at Harbaugh's direction. Harbaugh's in the middle of that somewhere. The Lions and Niners then go toe-to-toe. You're going to see some people putting their helmets back on their heads.
The game
as if
is
a fight
over.
is going to break
Let it
out.
go. The
Some
game is
people
over.
trying to get in there and break it up. Both teams are going into the tunnel where the Lions' home locker room is there. So, Jim Harbaugh, Pete Carroll, they had that issue when they were head coaches in the Pac-10 in college at the handshake at the end of a game. Jim Schwartz.
Okay, so you get the idea. I just wanted to...
By the way, Danny, I want to mention, a couple things. I believe that Harbaugh was not acting maliciously here. He was just excited he won the football game, and also, by the way,
Jim
I feel so old looking at that old Fox Sports scoreboard. In my opinion, that was the best one. But man, that scoreboard also haunts me because that's the same one where Kyle Williams muffed the punts. But seriously, I hope that doesn't happen, by the way, on Sunday in the NFC Championship.
Do not even put that thought into the universe.
But anyway, seriously though, Jim Schwartz though, he's a man, a grown ass man. The game was over. He should have been like, "Whoa, okay." He just got a little excited there and just walk off. There was literally no need to try to start some sissy fight over some rough handshake. Guys give me like rough handshakes all the time. And
hey, bandwagon, you know when Jim Schwartz and Harbaugh were fighting? That kind of similar.
That wasn't a fight. That was just that was an arguing match. That was no fight.
But like
there's no blood. There's no hands being thrown.
But he shouldn't have gotten mad. Like, he won the game, but like there was no need to like do anything like that. Like that was completely unnecessary.
No. I literally, by the way, Rockin', I feel very old. I mean, the fact that scoreboard from that 2011 season, the fact I'm seeing it now, I don't know. I feel like most of the old scoreboards have aged very well, except for the one in between 17 and 19. That was the only one that I didn't like. But otherwise, the other ones, no. I didn't like the 2014 to 16 one either. My favorites were 2011, 2012, and the current one right now. That I like the current one. But seriously, that game. But seriously, Short shouldn't have gotten mad like that. I mean, what do you expect?
Hey, bandwagoner. So if Jared Goff balls out against the 49ers, how many yards do you think he's going to throw for?
Definitely like 300 plus yards, honestly. 3 of them throwing maybe 3 or 4 touchdowns. I mean, we already saw what he could do against Tampa Bay last week, but also Tampa has a really questionable defense. But also Detroit has a very questionable secondary too. So I don't know. It's hard to say. We just got to wait and see how it plays out. But I feel like Goff is going to be under a lot of pressure.
But this is the question that I meant to ask you guys earlier: is who do you think won the trade between the Rams and the Lions? Because the Rams do have a Super Bowl victory.
Woo! Okay, I want to say this hot take right now. Still, I think LA won that trade because they got their quarterback. They won the Super Bowl, even if it was at the expense of the Niners. But I mean, in the long term, though, I think Detroit wins the trade because they got the draft picks. And they got a quarterback who's not old. He's not an old geezer who literally, I don't know. I mean, Stafford's getting old, but Goff is still young. Well, for his position. But I think in the long term, Detroit will win the trade. But short term, though, LA wins simply because of the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and it could change, but it's not going to change this year because the Lions are not going to win the Super Bowl this year.
If Detroit, but one day,
Sports Talk, Rocket New Area 4 was wondering how old you were because we were talking about.
I'm 27. I'm 27 by the way. I'm 27 by the way.
I am too. I just turned 27. Actually,
I'm the youngest one in this squad. But yeah, I just want to say that that if Detroit were to ever win the Super Bowl in my lifetime, with this current core of people under Campbell, then they will have won that trade with the Rams.
Hey, Danny Golden TV, I'm a big fan of your YouTube channel and all your content.
Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate that. And so
how hard does it take you to make all this content?
It used to take me it was a lot harder back in the day because I've made videos out here since 2009, and some of the stuff that I did a lot then was harder. I'll admit I don't put nearly as much effort into it as I used to, but I still put in a lot of work to it. But I'm trying to get it better with these live streams and everything. But I was wondering,
Danny, I really like coming on. I really like being on your channel and talking 49 football with you. I hope I can do this every.
Are you're sorry, your mic cut out a little bit there, but by the way, AJ, yes, when I was in the Bay Area last year, I actually rented because I had a rental car. I actually checked out Uncle Boy's, and I had a damn good burger there. So shout out to one of Damon Bruce's sponsors, Uncle Boy.
I'm still waiting for I mean, are there any Uncle Boys? Hold on a second. I can hear you.
Danny, you're like the OG on YouTube right now.
I wouldn't say he's the OG. There's guys older than him, honestly.
Yeah, well, I think he means is my mic? Yes, it's back. Yeah, it just randomly just unplugs every now and then.
But I want to say, Danny, of all the teams in the playoffs right now, I gotta say, that are cooked. I mean, I gotta bring up like old Charles Barkley, like cooked, well done roast here. I would say as of right now, the one team who I think is absolutely cooked in the NFC is definitely Dallas. I think they're cooked. Burnt toast, they're well done. But in the AFC, I think the team there that is cooked. Let me think about this one because the AFC was pretty loaded this year. I thought they were way better than the NFC this year in the playoffs.
Yeah, well, the Niners have lost to all AFC teams except week 1 when they beat the Steelers.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I want to sort of go over the losses.
They only play the AFC North Division. But
yeah, the funny thing is that of all the 5 losses this year, all those losses were mostly to AFC teams, especially to AFC North. They lost to Cleveland. They lost to Cincinnati. They lost to Baltimore. They lost to, let's see here. I'm trying to think of all the other losses. Minnesota, LA. Now, of all those losses, the one loss that I can excuse, or at least the 2 losses that I can excuse the most, were Baltimore and Cincinnati. But yeah, the AFC is definitely better. The NFC has more balanced teams, the better parity overall. Because I feel like with the NFC, it's more unpredictable. Like, you're getting more like wild card-esque teams. But in the AFC, though, it's a little more predictable. It's either Kansas City or Baltimore. Or Cincinnati.
I didn't know that the 49ers have fans in Mexico City and in the United Kingdom.
They have fans all over the entire world. So I was
49ers are like the Dallas Cowboys. They got like fans globally.
Yes.
They're like one of the biggest franchises in the National Football League.
So
like
I went to Europe back in November. I was in London first, and then for just a couple of days, and then I was in Venice for the rest of the trip. And I wore some Niners stuff there. I did. But one of the days when I didn't, I saw a fisherman, or he wasn't a fisherman, but he was selling fish in Venice. He was wearing a 49ers I think it was a 49ers beanie, yeah. And he spoke English, and my family and I were talking to him, and I guess he got it as a gift for someone that was from San Francisco, so it wasn't like he was like an actual Niner fan overseas, at least as far as I know. And hopefully maybe he has been able to, but the games do start at 2 a.m., so I won't blame him if he's not actually watching them. But that just shows the Niner fan base is all over the entire world.
I mean, at least he's not a Dallas Cowboys fan. Because
yeah,
Dallas,
at least someone from Dallas didn't give him a Dallas Cowboys.
I do want to say though, globally around the world, who is like literally the most popular?
I would say probably maybe the Steelers.
Team?
Maybe.
Oh, ew, gross. I would rather have people globally being Green Bay Packer fans than being either Steelers, Patriots, or Cowboys fans. That's how much I don't like those teams.
The thing I like about the 49ers is that they travel really well everywhere they go.
Absolutely.
Like every arena, they fill that arena up, man. They fill that arena to like.
Oh, you're talking about Mexico City? Yeah, they blew out. They blew out Arizona. I remember.
They probably have like 100,000 fans in the arena, like close to like that much. Like it's kind of ridiculous, like how they fill the whole arena everywhere they go.
I remember that. By the way, you remember that Mexico City game? That was probably one of Jimmy G's best ever games. if you remember.
Yeah, no,
when
it
he,
definitely was. And I thought that Jimmy looked the best that he'd had since 2017 before he got injured when Purdy took over. I thought
He looked
But-
like he was slowly, because I remember before he got hurt against Miami, just like he threw 16 TDs and 4 picks only. The way he was playing, he was reverting back to his 2017 form. And that was the Jimmy G that we wanted from that trade with New England. We wanted the 2017 Jimmy, not this mediocre interception machine throwing guy. And unfortunately, he's now crumbling in Vegas. I mean, as I expected, because Josh McDaniels sucks. I mean, yeah, they got a new coach, but I don't know if they're going to really fix anything. I feel like Raiders got to get a new quarterback, unfortunately. It almost makes me wonder. I wonder if years from now, when he becomes a free agent again, I wonder if Jimmy's just going to settle being a backup quarterback or if he's just going to retire from the game.
Yeah, I can see him.
He's
being
32.
like a backup quarterback, yeah.
I could see him coming back to San Francisco because of that.
That's a long shot, but it could happen.
Hey, Danny, I played the Detroit Lions versus the 49ers on Madden 24. Legitly, it was so realistic. Legitly, it was the most realistic playing experience I ever had. Like, Madden does a really good job with the graphics and the gameplay and everything.
Madden, realistic? Are you on?
Madden
Are you
24.
on?
I still want to finish my franchise
Madden
mode
is
in Madden
whack.
23 though before I play it though.
No,
I
but
have not
Madden
played a
looks-
Madden game since like Madden 17.
No, Madden
Madden's
looks
been
realistic.
terrible.
I played Madden
No, it's
today and it
not.
was so realistic.
All pro football
You're playing-
Well,
2K
maybe
Madden
it's,
looks
looks
more
hey,
realistic
Sean,
than
maybe the
Madden.
2024, maybe the Madden 24 is more realistic than the Madden games up between 17 and.
Yeah,
Look,
Madden
but I'm
24
not
is
talking about
realistic because
graphics.
they're
I'm
upgrading
talking
the game,
about
right?
like physics. I'm talking
No,
about
every
overall
time they
physics.
upgrade the game, right?
Yeah,
They're adding new graphics, they're adding new gameplay, they're adding new things to the game, make it better. That's what
The
all these
greatest
video game
Madden of all
developers.
time was not even on these current gen
Dude,
systems.
that's
No.
dude.
The
Dude,
OGs
that's
here
what-
might know what I'm talking about. Madden
that's what all
08 was
these-
the greatest Madden of all
Yeah,
time.
I have
All
Madden
these video-
08 for the PC somewhere.
All these video
I
game
got that.
developers are
That was
saying
the
like
first.
Madden 24
That was the
is
first
best
game I got when I was
game.
10. Yeah, it was Madden 08 was the first game
No.
I got when I was 10.
Hey Danny, I'm saying that Madden 24 video game developers saying like it's the best made game. Madden 24. No, video game
Yeah,
developers know
once
what
I'm
they're
done with my
talking
franchise
about.
mode in Madden 23, I haven't even had time to even play any video games at all. But once I get
Do you
done
agree
with
with
that
the-
franchise mode
Hey,
in 23, I'm gonna try Madden
Do you
24.
guys agree with Madden video game the video game developers saying Madden's the best game ever made?
No, it's not. I've definitely seen better games
Yeah,
I
I
played.
wouldn't agree.
I mean, by the way, Danny, I want to point out that, long ago when I was younger in high school, when I was still playing Madden, I did move the St. Louis Rams to LA. Foreshadowing. And I won the Super Bowl with them.
Realize you could do. I guess that makes sense. I did that like an NBA 2K. I moved the Clippers to San Diego in NBA 2K.
How did you do?
I don't know if I played a full on franchise with them, but I at least moved them there for fun and like the franchise.
I moved them.
I don't know how they did.
Hey
though,
Danny,
but-
the 49ers versus Ravens in Super Bowl 50 would be kind of interesting because it will be a first time two Ohio State football
Rematch.
players are going up against each other. Brock Purdy and Charlie Kohler, who both played for Iowa.
By the way, AJ, I agree with you. The Last of Us and BioShock 1 are great games. I played those. I would recommend anyone who has a PlayStation or a PC or so to pick up those games if you can. But yeah, and also, the Maddens of the 6th generation of consoles were the best ones, no doubt. And also,
Hey Danny, how would you rate Lamar Jackson as a quarterback from 1 to 5?
I rate him a 5,
Would you-
absolute 5. He's single-handedly led the Ravens on his back pretty much because they don't have that good of an offense overall.
Lamar is literally he's literally our era's Michael Vick, man. Except he's better than Michael Vick.
Yeah, and he doesn't kill dogs.
And Lamar is actually, I feel the thing is Lamar scares me, especially after what he did. But then again, though, I felt like that Christmas Day game couldn't have been as bad as it could have been had it not been for those 4 picks. And by the way, that's how he scored most of the time, mainly because of those 4 picks. And for that reason alone, I mean, I don't think we're going to, I don't know if we could win against Lamar in the Super Bowl in Vegas, but it's not impossible. Just, we got to sort of take what we did in that Christmas game. and just.
My question
do
was
better.
actually going to be, who should we, as an Niner fans, root for? Should we root for even though the Ravens already beat us, should we root for them or root for the Chiefs? Honestly, I'm going to have to root for the Ravens because that would be the easier.
I'm going to go.
Forget the
Look,
Christmas
I don't-
Day game. Yes, the Ravens kicked their ass. I still think they're the easier team.
Look,
I'd
the
rather- I'd rather
Ravens
face
are
them
going to
than
be
face
hard,
Mahomes.
but I'm going to go
I
root
just
for
would.
Baltimore.
Hey,
And
Danny,
I
as
can't
a
stand Taylor
49er,
Swift.
as a 49er fan, I got to go with Kansas City just because of all the Swift and Kelsey drama that's been brewing in KC.
So are you saying you're rooting for
I'm
the
going with
Chiefs?
I'm going with KC over Baltimore.
Okay.
Why?
No, I'm picking KC to beat Baltimore. I'm rooting for Baltimore to beat KC. That's what I'm saying.
I want a
prediction is
Super Bowl
that
47
Kansas City
rematch.
will
That's
win.
where all of our problems in all
Yeah.
these championship games truly started. It was Super Bowl 47.
Yeah, so it's either going to be a rematch of Super Bowl 47 or a rematch of Super Bowl 54 if the Niners are able to beat the Lions on Sunday.
I'm going to ask the chat. Let's actually ask the chat this question, okay?
Yes.
Who would you guys rather face in Vegas? Kansas City or Baltimore? For me personally, Kansas City would be the easier opponent, but I'm rooting for Baltimore because I just want all this BS toxicity around Kelsey and Swift to just stop. Just stop. But I wouldn't mind facing Casey again. It's just, I don't know.
Baltimore
But they'd
would
be the easier team.
But neither of them would be easy, though.
No, I think we can handle Mahomes this time. He doesn't have any good receivers. That's the big difference.
The Niners just have to score more points.
No, you got to score more than
you
got to score more than 20 points.
Offensively.
I feel like to beat Kansas City, you got to score 35.
Hey, Danny, as a 49er fan, I wouldn't want to face Baltimore because if Lamar Jackson gets running and he scrambles, that guy can run to the end zone and score a touchdown on us. Like that's
of course, he did that in the Christmas game, but
I don't try. Look, I like Lamar Jackson, but once he has the ball and he scrambles and he runs with it, that guy can take the ball to the end zone.
That's true. Now, Rocket Newer 84 says Ravens look more difficult and Christmas Day game doesn't help with my confidence. Well, it doesn't help with my confidence either.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie.
But
I bet even the most dedicated Niner fans, even though they're gonna root for the Niners, I bet a lot of people are gonna be picking Baltimore to win it.
Hey, Danny, the Baltimore Ravens and 49ers Super Bowl would make a lot more sense because they would have enact revenge for the Ravens beating the Niners on Christmas Day.
And this time they actually freaking run the ball in
because they
like
have to say
goal.
The 49ers have to enact revenge on the Ravens because that was the 49ers shouldn't have lost on Christmas Day.
Not Christmas. We're like many years ago in Super Bowl 47.
Well, both of them. It would be a revenge for both of them. Yes, it would be a
revenge
for
the Ravens
did play it would be a revenge for Super Bowl 47.
No, the Ravens did play the 49ers on Christmas Day, didn't they?
No, I don't care. I don't care. But no one cares about that Christmas game.
We're talking about that too, but we're also talking about we're mainly talking about the Super Bowl. But
I'm sorry I'm sorry that I keep bringing up the Christmas Day matchup between Ravens and Niners.
I mean, that game was a loss. It's simple. Regular season, that's regular season. That's one thing. But we lost to them in a Super Bowl. That's another thing. You can never let that go. Never. And you know what? They may as well beat us again. But hey, we got to give it another go. And yeah, defeating Baltimore would be huge to avenge the potential league MVP and a team seen as team superior. Also avenging that Super Bowl loss. But I agree. Mahomes is more vulnerable now than last time. Yeah, Mahomes is like, where's Tyreek Hill?
Hey Danny, at the NFL honor awards, the MVP finalists are Christian McCaffrey and Brock Purdy. Who do you got winning between those two? Christian McCaffrey, Brock Purdy.
I want CMC to win.
What would the award be for?
MVP.
It would be for the MVP. Well, okay, I think Lamar Jackson should be the NFL MVP in general, but I think that CMC would be second up because as great as Purdy is, CMC is the main difference maker, I think. So I think CMC is a little more deserving of the MVP.
McCaffrey is, in my opinion, McCaffrey has the numbers, the stats to definitely win MVP. I feel like he's done more than Lamar, but listen, I'm going to be realistic for a second. I think Lamar's going to win the MVP. He will.
Yeah.
But I want CMC to win it. Don't get me wrong, but I think Lamar's going to win it.
Bandwagoner, you know when if CMC if Brock Purdy gives the award to CMC, it's kind of like at an award show when one person didn't end up winning, and then the person made him feel better by saying that you lost, but you can take my trophy.
Are you kidding me? Nobody cares. I mean, listen, the only guys who care about individual MVP awards are like douchebags like Aaron Rodgers.
No, but like when people do that, it definitely touches people, because if somebody ended up losing,
the thing is, it's just an award for what you've done throughout regular season. The real prize, is the Lombardi Trophy. That's the real grand prize. Everyone wants to hold up the Lombardi. Nobody cares about the MVP.
What are your thoughts on participation trophies? Giving people participation trophies just because to make the other side feel better, they're just giving their.
I think that's fucking stupid.
No, that's
but this is a whole big thing. Do you agree? Like, people are making a whole big deal that we should have participation trophies.
No, we should not have. I mean, not in sport. In other things, situations in life, sure, but not in sports.
You gotta win. You gotta play for a reason, and that you're giving guys less of a reasons to play. And that, you see, the fact is, when Rodgers won his MVP in 2021, I just remembered it didn't really seem like he cared about anything else. He just was caring about his MVP trophy. He didn't care about winning the Vince Lombardi Trophy. And I don't know. My philosophy is we got to win the whole thing. I mean, you know what? Here's the thing. I am cool with winning the George Halas Trophy too, the Conference Championship Trophy. But still, it doesn't make an excuse for not winning the Lombardi Trophy. You have to win the Lombardi Trophy. Literally. Like, give me a good reason why we shouldn't win it. I haven't seen a Super Bowl ever in my lifetime, at least a win. I mean, I've seen them appear in the big dance a couple times, but never a victory. I want to at least get one or two before I die.
Hey, Danny, what are your thoughts on Kyle Shanahan being named Coach of the Year?
That's questionable for me, honestly.
You know, I have a bet on DraftKings going on that where I'll win some. I put down like 10 or $20 or something, and I'm gonna win. If that happens, I'll actually win some money. So I really,
you know who I think is gonna be Coach of the Year? You know who I think is gonna be Coach of the Year? I think it's either gonna be Campbell or D'Amico Ryans. And I could see it going to Dan Campbell regardless of what happened, just because what he did this year was incredible for I really want D'Amico to win. I love that guy.
Yeah. What D'Amico did with the Texans is incredible as well.
He literally did what Shanahan couldn't do with his dual threat quarterback. He immediately got to work on him.
Sean McVay should also be included in the NFL Head Coach of the Year race because he did so many great things for the Rams.
No, I don't care about. No one cares about them damn Lambs. Rams are mid now, and they're
same
almost
old sorry ass Rams.
Yeah, they're cooked. Yeah. Well done.
I don't like the Dana Stubblefield isn't a good guy, so I probably shouldn't be using that soundbite.
No, but seriously,
hey Ben Wagner, there's a YouTuber named by the name of Amelia Sports Report. He's a Rams fan.
I don't care, honestly. The Rams are the Rams. I was okay with them winning Super Bowl 56, but seriously, man, I really don't care about the Rams. I think they're cooked in the long term because of what they did to give up for Stafford. They literally sold their souls for that Super Bowl trophy in 2021.
Yeah. Otis, I agree with your comment from earlier when we were talking about Taylor Swift 100%. Baseball does need a Taylor Swift. That would be great for the game. But the pitch clock definitely helped because I can tell the pitch clock. I mean, I didn't.
Another mic cut out again.
Yep. Classic mic cutting out.
What kind of mic do you have, by the way?
It's a Zoom USB mic too. I'm looking in the process. I actually ordered a new one, but I had to return it because
I have a Samsung QTU. It's been mostly reliable since 2019 or so.
Yeah, it might possibly be this cord that I'm using to plug in. I'm going to try it with a different cord. That might help it also.
Hey, Danny,
but it's been
if
good
the
overall.
49ers beat the Lions in the NFC Championship game, who's going to be your X factor?
For me, it was CMC, and I was right last time.
I'm gonna the obvious answer would be to CMC, but I'm gonna say George Kittle. I'm gonna say George Kittle can be the X factor.
But yeah, it's I mean, obviously everybody has a role to play, but you know what? What if the X factor this time is going to be Debo? Because I bet he's angry as hell after being hurt last week.
Hey, Danny. Who are your top 5 players on the 49ers who make the most money in jersey sales?
Oh, that I don't. I would guess obviously would be at the top, but I'm going to end this in a few minutes. I want to give some more thoughts on here. Well, SG actually. I want to ask you. So the call that you're the last time I actually called into Eddie Sports Talk Radio was after the week 17 week 17 game at that time. The Niners and the Seahawks when Dre Greenlaw had that big goal line stance that clinched the number 1 seed. I called into when Bonte Hill and Joe Shasky were doing their own version of the 49ers post game on 95.7. And that's the last time I called in. I have called into KNBR before. One of my classic calls to KNBR was in March of 2012 after the Warriors fans booed Joe Lacob. I called into Sports Phone 680 when Eric Burns was hosting it. And I compared it to a time because I watched Eric Burns when he played in Arizona because I had moved here in 2004. So I even went to some games when he played. I was a fan of him because he played for the A's before and he's a Bay Area guy. And that 2007 D-backs team was really fun to watch. I even went to one of their playoff games. But 2008, he got booed by the fans because he was playing bad. So since he was doing the post game that night after the Warrior fans did that, I thought, oh, this will be perfect. I'll call it and compare it. So that was I have that on my channel. That was one of the last times.
Look,
I called into KNBR later that when after Marty Lurie show the night that Matt Cain had the perfect game in 2012 as well. I don't have that clip available, unfortunately, but yeah,
Jay Lacob is a good owner. He's one of the best owners I've ever seen because, I mean, just like as I said earlier when I first came on here, the best owners always stay the hell out of way of sports affairs. But I feel like he's going to eventually have to step in again because the Warriors are getting cooked left and right now. I think they're going to have to rebuild the whole team from scratch. But I love Lacob. Definitely. And I felt like I agree that everybody was wrong for booing him in that time when
100%. That's one of this did not age well taste. But I supported the fact, or excuse me, I was completely against that. I called into Burns' show and I said it was completely pathetic that they did that on the night that Chris Mullen had his jersey retired. And Rocketeer 84 says he was in attendance. Did you boo? I don't think you probably did. But
I wasn't even a Warriors fan at that time. I was still a young guy. I was still a young boy who was.
Yeah, you would. I know because you would have been told because you were born in 2000. So I know you would have been.
I didn't become a sports fan until like 2011.
Yeah, I didn't become a sports fan until 2007 because that's when I was 10. So I know I'm kind of in that same boat as you in that case.
I mean, it's sad though. Warriors now are cooked. But here's the thing: unlike the Giants, though, at least I know for a fact that I have full confidence that the Warriors are going to rebuild. But Giants, though, I think they're the ones that are really cooked.
Sorry about that, guys.
By the way, Danny, I wanted to just say before you got cut off, at least I can have faith in the Warriors ownership, their front office, unlike the San Francisco Giants. I think they're really cooked. Farhan needs to go. Charles Johnson needs to sell his stake in the team. I mean, that team is a disaster. If we want to be very honest here, they are absolutely cooked. I mean, yeah, Warriors are going to suck for a few years, in my opinion, because of the rebuilding process. It's going to suck. But you know what? I can't complain. They won the championships throughout the 2010s and in 2022. I mean, how can I ask for anything more than that? I didn't see the Niners winning in the 80s.
Yeah, the Giants 10, 12, and 14, and the Warriors, the 4 championships that they run. I mean, I never expected anything like that in my lifetime either.
It's also kind of not fair that those teams, I mean, especially the San Francisco Giants, I think looking back, that shit may have been a fluke. Baseball was so weak when they were rolling in the postseason in the early 2010s. But yeah, but look, no, also AJ, I just want to say here that the crowd definitely, the Yorks definitely deserve the boos afterwards. Not during the whole move to the Silicon Valley, to the South Bay. but more like when they fired Harbaugh and when the team was performing poorly. That's when they definitely deserve the boos. But Lacob, I don't think he deserved the boos. But you know who definitely deserves the boos right now, in my opinion, Danny? If given the opportunity, I mean, I'm not going to Giants games, but if anybody's going, I recommend Giants fans to boo both Farhan and the Johnsons. They need to get the hell out.
I do like
I'm
the
done.
Bob Melvin hire, though. I do like that. I will say that. That's
no, but he's not. But he's not going to win shit. I mean, sure, if he gets the team back on its feet and go to the playoffs, it's just going to be the Oakland A's of the 2010s and the late 2010s too. They're going to make the playoffs and they're going to choke, and then Giants fans are going to cry on social media for like months and months until next season, and then the same old cycle starts all over again. This is an ownership problem, and in this case, I mean, Major League Baseball's big money, as we saw with the Dodgers and the Yankees and the Mets. Johnson's got to go and take Farhan too with him.
Yeah, that's what. If the Giants don't make the playoffs this year, or at least have a much improved season, I could see Farhan easily being go.
No, they should be cooked. They should be all cooked.
So Rockin' New Era says Warriors were the doormat of the NBA. Nobody knew where Golden State was, and then Otis adds.
I think back in those days. If you were a Bay Area sports fan, living in that era before the Warriors got great, I think everyone there were all Laker fans back then.
A lot of them were. I know there's a guy named Coaster Freak that. No, he was a Raider fan and an A's fan. He was just a Warriors fan there just for the hell of it. But I thought it was cool. Now I felt like I was the only Warriors fan in the state of Arizona before 2014. And Rockin' or Ernesto, as I should call you, I was even telling you on Twitter yesterday that you could not even find Warriors gear or anything with a Warriors logo on it in any sports stores in Arizona, except for one time when I was after the We Believe. My mom and I have found a Baron Davis and Jason Richardson jersey at some Foot Locker or something, and I got a Baron Davis
believe it or
jersey.
not, even though it was long before the start, though it was before the start of that golden age of the team, the We Believe Warriors was what really started that era of greatness for the Warriors. It was that team. Yes, they didn't win the championship, but it was because of that team. I don't know. I felt like it triggered a butterfly effect that impacted the entirety of the 2010s. But I think what also really cemented the Warriors winning that decade was the NBA lockout.
It showed how loyal their fans were, too. It showed. I remember David Stern was being interviewed during halftime, or maybe it was. Yeah, no, I think it was during halftime, and he was saying, he was like, yeah, just for them being here, it's almost like they're in the NBA Finals, which totally was true at the time.
And speaking of which, I have to say, speaking of mediocrity, speaking like going from worst to first, now that the Warriors had their time, you know who I think's like their turn is like coming up next? Sacramento. Yep. It's their turn.
That is true. Yes, the Kings beat the Warriors by 1 point.
And by the way, they got to get past.
Barnes is playing good as well.
Look, I have no beef with Sacramento. In fact,
I don't either. I personally don't. I think it's a friendly rivalry. Honestly, if the Kings were in the Warriors were out of it, and somehow the Kings were in the Western Conference Finals and the NBA Finals, I would probably find myself rooting for them. I mean,
Sacramento.
I wanted my hometown team, the Suns, to win it a couple years or in the 21 season, and
I have no beef with Sacramento. And also, if they go to the NBA, I mean, here's the thing though. I have no beef with Sacramento, and I hope they win it for NorCal. But we got to also be realistic in considering today's NBA. As much as I want them to go somewhere, we all know that there is a big dump truck standing in their way. Jokic. If you cannot get past Jokic, you cannot win the Western Conference. So you got to get past Denver to win. And you know what? I heard Jokic got selected to the other All-Star game. I think Denver's in position to repeat, to be quite honest.
They could.
Hey, Kimmy, I have no issues with Kings fans. The Kings fans are like my brothers. Now, the guys I can't stand are the Lakers fans. I can't stand them.
I'm a little different. I wouldn't really root against. I probably wouldn't root against the Kings, but when the Warriors play the Kings, that's when it's war, and that's when the Kings fans. That's why I don't want to fuck with them at all for that during that series. We do own them. We did beat them last year in the playoffs.
I don't like Lakers fans. I just don't. They're like the Dodger fans. So annoying. But, Sacramento is least tolerable. But you know who's even more tolerable than the Lakers fans? And I know people are going to laugh at this. The Clippers fans. they're sort of like the Chargers in that because they have no fans. Kings fans coming out. Yeah, it's like everyone was complaining about the Warriors fans in 2015. When the Warriors won, all these bandwagon fans started to pop up. And then, I heard it was the same thing about the Niner fans too.
Remember even in 2011, after when the Giants won the World Series in 2010, I remember in 2011 you would see a whole bunch of Giants fans at games at Wrigley and just every park in baseball. You would just see a storm of Giants fans that weren't there. So that's like common, I guess. And I wouldn't necessarily say it was more just the fact that maybe a few of them were bandwagon fans, but a lot of them were more just. Maybe they were kind of more fair weather fans or fans that won.
Or maybe by some chance.
Yeah, fans
maybe by some chance they could be traveling.
Right, exactly.
They could be traveling, or they could be original Bay Area born people that now live in like Chicago, for instance.
Right. No, I didn't use the term fair weather in the right way. It's more just the fact that they're probably fans for all those reasons, are from the Bay Area, live in Chicago, or they wanted to make the trip, for example, because imagine they just won the World Series and you want to see your championship team on the road. That's a lot.
Imagine being a 49er or a Bears fan in Green Bay, Wisconsin. But I remember all these Warrior bandwagon fans. It was so annoying, and I'm glad they're gone now. And I remember when the 49ers had bandwagon fans during the Harbaugh era. Yeah, everybody was calling me a bandwagon fan initially because of that. In fact, that's why I have my name Bandwagon in 2011. I'm literally making fun of that period when everyone was calling me a bandwagon fan.
That's funny.
And look, it's been like 12, 13 years now. Can you guys stop calling me that? I'm literally not one.
Yes, you definitely proven that.
If anything, my name is a parody of that time. And you know what? I remember in 2017 or 18, when the Niners, when it became clear that their return to power was inevitable, I knew immediately the bandwagon fans were going to return. And I even remember making a video, even warning people, God, these fuckers are coming back. Prepare yourselves. We're going to get like some of the worst hate in the National Football League for the first time since 2014 or so. So prepare yourself, people. Prepare yourselves for all these dumbasses that don't know shit about football. Like, prepare. Right. They're back. For the most part, they're back.
So as I was getting at with the thing with the Warriors and not being able to find gear before 2014. So I actually, in 2013, my mom and I went to San Diego, and at their sports store, I did find some Warriors gear. So I bought some then there and took it back. And then actually for my 17th birthday, which was 10 years ago, just last week, I got a Steph Curry shirt for my birthday. And then I finally had some Warriors gear for the first time, because before that, the only thing I was able to get was one hat and a Baron Davis jersey from when I was 10.
That Warriors team is just like, it's a legend. It's a legendary, like a mythological story that I don't think can really be. I mean, it's hard to really beat that. The closest team that I would say that came close to matching, if not like toppling that We Believe Warriors team, was just last year with the Miami Heat. They were like one of the low seeds in the NBA, and then they ruled their way to the NBA Finals. Now, they had no chance against Jokic and the Nuggets, but the fact they made it that far despite being so low, that's legendary. That's a legendary one by Jimmy Butler. But still, that We Believe Warriors team is an all-time classic.
Oh yeah, that's probably still my favorite team of all time, just because it's what got me. Because I literally only followed sports for like maybe 5 or 6 months at that time, and
I mean that was the first good Bay Area sports like run in a while, because everyone at that time still was terrible.
Yeah,
because
and another thing that was interesting actually,
that was a dark year in Bears.
Yeah, the Warriors won the first round of the upset the Mavericks as the 8th seed, and then they lost to the Jazz. The Phoenix Suns were my hometown team, were also in the playoffs, and that's when they lost to the Spurs in that series when Robert Horry checked Steve Nash into the scores table and all that drama happened. But so it was interesting. So that was when I was saying both the Warriors and the Suns didn't both make the playoffs at the same time until the 2021-2022 season. And one of my buddies actually from the AZ Niner group that's a Suns fan was going to give me, because he had season tickets for the Suns, he was actually going to give me his extra ticket, and we were going to be able to go to that. We were going to go to that game if the Suns had beaten the Mavericks, and we would have played the Western Conference Finals there.
Wait, who would it have been between?
It would have been between the Warriors and the Suns because the Mavericks beat the Suns and.
Oh my! You know what I think would have happened?
7. Yeah, in 7 games. So if the Suns would have won that game 7, I would have gone to game 1. I would have had a free ticket to game 1 of the Western Conference.
I feel
Finals.
like I felt like looking back. I'll just say this quickly because I know you want to get going soon because it's getting late. But I felt like had they faced Phoenix, I think it would have been a much tougher series. But the fact they took on Dallas, I was like, yep, we got this. We're gonna win it either in 4 or give them a gentleman's sweep in 5. That was how I remembered that whole run in 2022. But I also knew deep down, but I didn't want to believe at that time that was going to be our last grand run. I just knew it because the team was getting old and Clay, even though he was coming back from the injury, I knew he didn't have much longer. And fortunately, they won it just before my granddad died. And he saw 04 and he just passed away in June 2023. But I'm glad he saw all 4 of them in the dynasty with me while he was alive. And yeah, I'm grateful for that Warriors team. It's just
rest in peace to him, and that is awesome that you guys got to experience all those memories together.
Oh, yes. It was great watching in that house. It was awesome.
I bet. So yeah, thank you. Or actually, I'll let you have a final word. Thank you, Sean, for joining me.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it. I'm gonna close out. I'm just gonna talk to the chat for like a couple close out.
And also, but yeah, let me give my last word to the chat here. Again, it was nice having Danny back on here. I'm planning on making YouTube videos again, but not at this time. So I won't shill my channel yet. In other words, promote. But yeah, go Niners. Let's go to Vegas. Say see you.
Okay, I got the mic back. So I'm gonna close out the stream, but I just wanted to talk to the chat real quick. And AJ, you mentioned the thing with I remember now. I got to go back on because I was listening on the TuneIn Radio app when I was at work. But I heard you mention about you heard him mention the podcast. It's just my opinion, man. I laughed so hard when I heard that in Cope's I mainly laughed at Cope's reaction because that was really funny. And I think I might have to check that out tomorrow. I think Derek Papa and Stephen Langford are supposed to do another podcast, so I'll try to check that out tomorrow. But thank you, Rocket New 84. Happy late birthday. The Januaries are the absolute best. Of course, mine was last week. I turned 27. So hope you had an incredible 40th birthday and really appreciate you supporting my channel as well. 49er Minded. Bashar, thank you for joining earlier if you're still watching as well. AJ Cruz, thanks for that. Perfect. Thank you. And Ernie Chavez as well. And of course, Otis, the fearless leader of the chat who I've known for almost 13 years now. And I wanted to thank my buddy Chris Barnhart, who popped in earlier, who I'm actually going to hang out with in Vegas for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday during the Super Bowl week. Looking forward to that. That's going to be awesome. And JD chimed in as well. JD is going to the game on Sunday, keeping the faith here on this channel. And Sleeta Sports Live in the ATL checked in as well. So thank you to all of them and hope everyone has a great night. And go Niners.